Cabinet scraps 3% equity tax on private education and health services, also approves relief measures for loan shark victims and international airlines. 6 UML ministers resigned from Bagmati province government. Chief Minister Indra Bahadur Bania-led government falls into minority. Nepal prepares for one of its hottest years in 3 decades. Experts urge impact-based forecast to reduce the risk of extreme heat. United States carries out an 11th straight night of strikes in Iran. Attacks come amid escalating tensions over security on strait. Student-led protests intensify across India. Opposition parties join calls for accountability and education reform. And Nepal suffers a narrow defeat to Kazakhstan in its opening match of the Central Asian Volleyball Association Championship in Islamabad. Good evening, I'm Suveksha Rajak and this is NTV World Primetime News. We are coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepal time. Elsewhere, it's 13:15 in London, 22:15 in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. Now the news in details. The government has endorsed the agreement it had made with loan sharking victims and decided to render all forged documents relating to loan sharking illegal. The meeting of the Council of Ministers held in Singapore today also decided to form a judicial probe committee on self-immolation of Ganesh Nepali. The committee will be coordinated by former judge at High Court Keshav Prasad Bastola, according to government spokesperson and Minister for Education and Sports Sashmit Pokhrel. As per government decision, judge at Tulsipur High Court Basudev Acharya will be assigned as the chairman of the special court, while judge at Surkhet High Court Dipendra Adhikari as the chairman of Labour Court. Sailesh Raj Kuwar has been appointed as an administrator of the Guti Sansthan. Minister Pokhrel further informed media that the international flights would be provided the parking, landing and navigation for free of cost, while the ground handling at 50% concession at the regional international airports Pokhara and Bhairava.
मिटर ब्याजबाट प्रभावित नागरिकको माग सम्बोधन गर्ने सम्बन्धमा गठित समिति र मिटर ब्याजबाट विरुद्ध किसान मजदुर आन्दोलनका प्रतिनिधि बीच मिति 2083-41 मा भएको सम्झौता अनुमोदन गर्ने, सम्झौतामा उल्लेख भए बमोजिम मिटर ब्याजसँग सम्बन्धित फर्जी लिखतहरू आजकै मितिबाट अवैध घोषणा गर्ने, आर्थिक ऐन 2083 को दफा 18 को उपदफा 1 बमोजिम शिक्षा समता शुल्क र स्वास्थ्य समता शुल्क पूर्ण रूपमा छोड दिने। आजबाट मन्त्री परिषदमा औपचारिक रूपमा यो निर्णय भइसकेपछि आजबाट कुनै पनि अस्पतालले अथवा विद्यालयले 3% शुल्क लिन मिल्दैन।
The decision to be effective till mid-September 2028 is aimed at international flights. Moreover, the cabinet meeting scrapped the equity tax on education and health as per Section 18(1) of the Finance Act 2083. Prime Minister Balendra Shah says the government is committed to strengthening Nepal's handicraft sector through policy reforms, employment generation and industry transformation. During a meeting with representatives of the Federation of Handicraft Associations of Nepal, the Prime Minister expressed support for establishing a handicraft development board under public-private partnership model. He also directed officials to coordinate with the Home Ministry on recognizing Handicraft Day at the national level. Prime Minister Shah assured the delegations that the government would consider making invoice-based valuation mandatory for handicraft exports to improve transparency and increase revenue. The meeting also discussed plans to establish a handicraft village in the Kathmandu Valley and skill training centers in all 7 provinces, while industry representatives pledged full cooperation with the government to promote and protect Nepal's traditional handicraft sector. Moving on, 6 ministers from the CP and UML have resigned from the Bagmati province government, deepening the political crisis in the province. The resignation letters were registered at the office of the Chief Minister at Council of Ministers as Chief Minister Indra Bahadur Bania was outside the district. The outgoing ministers include those handling key portfolios such as agriculture, infrastructure, health, forest, industry, labour and transport. Earlier, the UML Provincial Parliament Party had withdrawn its support for the Bania-led government. With the UML exit, the Bagmati province government has lost its majority in the Provincial Assembly. Political parties in the Assembly have now started efforts to form a new power arrangement. Minister for Information and Communication, Dr. Bikram Timilsina, has directed ministry officials to speed up decision-making and strengthen administrative reforms in the current fiscal year. He instructed employees to clear files that can be decided at the ministry level within a day, while cases requiring coordination with other agencies must be resolved within 5 days. The minister also called for a result-oriented work culture backed by daily performance reviews, regular monitoring, and a system of rewards and accountability. Minister Timil Sina stressed the need to accelerate lawmaking, improve budget implementation, and expand digital public services. He also directed officials to fast-track key legislation, including the Mass Communications Bill and the Media Council Bill, with the target of presenting 6 bills to the Federal Parliament during the current fiscal year. We are going for a short break here. More news coming up. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World and this is Primetime News. Coping up with the extreme heat, one of the major environmental concerns around the world. Not only the public, even the government agencies are now adopting new measures, with prediction of Nepal experiencing highest temperatures in 3 decades this year. The Department of Hydrology and Meteorology, DHM, has warned the public to be well prepared. Impact-based forecasting is what experts have outlined as more effective way to keep not only the public but also the livestock and crops safer from extreme heat. Savika Shrestha along with Kamala Arial brings more.
Climate change affecting our daily life, including the environment and weather, is no more a secret. While countries are reporting record high temperatures, Nepal is also bearing gamut of problems. Experts have started discussing the possible impact of rising temperatures, heat waves, and their potential impact on public health, agriculture, water resources, and daily life. The experts, who are fearing worse days ahead, have advised wearing loose-fitting and light-colored clothing, use umbrellas, hats, or sunglasses when going outdoors. Also keep indoor spaces cool and well-ventilated and avoiding leaving home unless absolutely necessary to avoid the extreme heat. To reduce the impact on agriculture, experts recommended cultivating heat-tolerant crops and crop varieties, providing shade for plants, using organic manure to improve soil health, and developing water conservation and storage systems. For the livestock sector, they suggested ensuring animals have access to sufficient drinking water, cool and shaded areas, and facilities such as ponds or water baths to help them cope with the heat. Participants also stressed the importance of regularly following weather forecasts and officials' warnings and planning agriculture activities accordingly to minimize losses caused by high temperatures and heat waves. The Department of Hydrology and Meteorology that organized the program is also adopting new measures to forecast and disseminate information in advance. It is carrying out risk and hazard assessments, identifying and classifying potential impacts, preparing weather forecasts, determining the severity of expected impacts, issuing warnings, and disseminating timely information. The department further explained that its impact-based forecasting system not only predicts weather conditions but also assesses their likely effects on people's lives, enabling relevant agencies to make necessary preparations in advance.
जल तथा मौसम विज्ञान विभागले चाहिँ 30 वर्षको चाहिँ औसतलाई हेरेर चाहिँ यसपालि चाहिँ औसतभन्दा बढी हो कि कम हो कि भनेर भन्छौँ। हरेक केन्द्रहरू अनुसार हरेक ठाउँ अनुसार चाहिँ केन्द्रहरू फरक फरक छन् र कुन ठाउँको औसत कति हो भनेर फेरि तपाईहरुले जल तथा मौसम विज्ञान विभागको वेबसाइटमा पनि ती सूचनाहरू अद्यावधिक हुन्छ हेर्न सक्नुहुन्छ। त्यो चाहिँ हरेक ठाउँको चाहिँ फरक फरक हुन्छ र अब अहिले चाहिँ विश्वका चाहिँ धेरै ताता वर्षहरू मध्ये चाहिँ यो पछिल्ला दशकमा नै अत्याधिक तातो वर्षहरू भएको छ क्या रेकर्डहरूले गर्दाखेरि।
The workshop is expected to strengthen coordination among stakeholder agencies involved in managing heat-related disasters, improve the effectiveness of early warning systems, and contribute to reducing damage caused by extreme heat. With camera person Pradyumna Dhungel, Sabika Shrestha, NTV World.
Flash floods have severely damaged the Sipringkhola hydropower project in Dulkham, forcing a complete halt to electricity generation. 4 hydropower workers stranded by rising flood waters were rescued safely by local residents after taking shelter on higher ground. Authorities say the flood buried the project's dam site, eroded the riverbank and left workers trapped on cliff overnight. Meanwhile, a 73-year-old local resident remains missing after reportedly being swept away while tending livestock near the flooded area. Police and emergency teams remain at the site as search and rescue operations continue, while officials assess the full extent of the damage to the nearly 10-megawatt hydropower project. Continuous rainfall has increased the threat of landslides in Ramche of East Nawalparasi, putting several families at risk of displacement. Days of heavy rain have triggered landslides, caused land subsidy, and opened large cracks across the hillside, raising fears of further slope failures. Local authorities say 7 households are at immediate risk and preparations are underway to relocate them to safer locations. Ramche has long been identified as a landslide-prone settlement, with this year's monsoon once again worsening ground instability. Police and local officials have urged residents to remain alert and move to safer areas, warning that the danger could increase if the rainfall continues. Moving on. Farmers in eastern Bhojpur are suffering heavy crop losses as monkeys continue destroying fields just before harvest. The monkey menace has intensified during this year's maize harvesting season, affecting farmers across all 9 local levels of the district. Residents living near forests say monkeys are raiding maize fields and orchards, causing significant damage to their crops. Monkey attacks have been reported in places like Annapurna Nagi, Bokhin, Toksar, Hatuagadi, Bastim, Dalgaon, Khawa and Kot, among others. Locals say the problem has worsened as monkey have moved into higher settlements, taking advantage of villages with declining populations. They are urging the government to introduce effective measures to control the growing monkey menace. Many families have built small watch huts in their fields, with 2 to 3 members taking turns guarding crops instead of carrying out other daily work. Farmers warn that unless a long-term solution is implemented, crop losses will continue to rise, threatening their livelihoods. Nepal's southwestern Lumini area is of great archaeological importance, being the home of Lord Gautam Buddha. In a recent finding, around 2,500 ancient copper coins and a copper vessel dating back to the 12th century have been unearthed in Kapilvastu district. Preliminary findings suggest the coins date back to the 12th and 13th centuries. The artifacts will transfer to the Kapilvastu Museum in Tilorakot for detailed study and preservation. Rojina Rai with our Kapilvastu correspondent Vasudev Verma brings the report.
हामीले खोल्ने क्रममा छौं के कति कोइनहरु छ अनि यो कोइन चाहिँ विशेष गरी कोइनको भने चाहिँ अनुमान गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ मुस्लिम समयको कोइन हुन सक्छ यसमा चाहिँ 12औं देखि 13औं शताब्दीको अनुमान गर्न सकिन्छ.
Another remarkable archaeological discovery has been made in Kapilvastu district. Around 2,500 ancient copper coins and a copper vessel of archaeological significance have been unearthed in Bhavani village of the district. The discovery was made while local farmers were planting paddy and noticed a copper vessel buried beneath the field. Following the discovery, Janwari, a team from the Kapilvastu District Police Office and officials from the Kapilvastu Museum in Tilorakot rushed to the site. In the presence of local representatives, community leaders, journalists and other stakeholders, the artifacts were formally recovered. Police said the recovered items are now being transferred to the Kapilvastu Museum in Tilorakot, where they will be preserved and examined in detail.
किसानहरूले खेती रोपाई गरिरहेको ठाउँमा पुरातात्विक महत्त्वको एउटा करुवा जस्तो देखिने वस्तु फेला परेको छ भन्ने हामीलाई जानकारी प्राप्त भएपछि उक्त स्थानमा गई उक्त वस्तुलाई रीतपूर्वक हामीले चाहिँ बरामद गरेका छौं र अहिले उक्त वस्तु आवश्यक संरक्षणको लागि कपिलवस्तु संग्रहालय तिलौराकोटमा पठाउने संरक्षणको लागि पठाउने तयारी भइरहेको छ.
The chief of the Kapilvastu Museum stated, although detailed research is still underway, an initial assessment suggests the coins may date back to the 12th or 13th century. The discovery is expected to offer valuable new insights into the history of the ancient Kapilvastu region. The artifacts and coins will now be preserved at the Kapilvastu Museum in Tilorakot for the further study, conservation, and archaeological research.
Professional dragon fruit farming became popular in Dang nearly 8 years ago when a former minister took to it. Today, the district has become one with largest commercial dragon fruit farming. Local correspondent Madhav Kumar Oli brings a report. Started by one man in little over 2 hectares of land some 6 years ago, dragon fruit farming has become a booming business in Nepal's central Dang district. Deepak Basnet, a youth from Ward number 5, Salaura, Dangesharan Rural Municipality, has been engaged in commercial dragon fruit farming for 5 years. Basnet started dragon fruit farming in 2.02 hectares of land 6 years ago, and now it has expanded to over 4.74 hectares. The plants Basnet planted began producing fruit, and now in the 5th year, he earns up to 2.5 million rupees annually.
अहिले यो सिजनमा मेरो योदेखि अगाडि चाहिँ मैले 4 लट बेचे. 4 लटमा मेरो तपाईको पहिलो लटमा चाहिँ 2883 केजी आएको थियो. दोस्रो लटमा चाहिँ 2646 आएको थियो. तेस्रो लटमा 1832 आएको थियो. चौथो लटमा 1756 केजी बजार गएको थियो भने अहिले चाहिँ अब यो पाँचौं लटको चाहिँ मेरो चाहिँ हिजोसम्म चाहिँ बजार गएको 16 क्विन्टल गएको छ. आज लगभग 15-16 क्विन्टल बराबर आज टिपिएको छ भने अब बाँकी 10-12 क्विन्टल अझै टिप्न बाँकी नै छ अब.
For marketing the produce, a dragon fruit business committee has recently formed in Dang to facilitate marketing and bring uniformity to pricing. The committee has not only fixed the retail price of the fruit but also fixed special rates for wholesale buyers. The robust income has started attracting number of people into professional dragon fruit farming in Dang. While initially only a few farmers were cultivating it, now more than 56 organized farms across the district are engaged in commercial cultivation, according to Dang Dragon Fruit Business Committee. Of these, 36 are producing fruit and earning income, while others have only recently planted saplings. This year, an estimated 155 tons of dragon fruit is expected to be produced in the district with a turnover of around 60 million rupees. In Dang, red, white, yellow and red sea variety dragon fruits are being cultivated. Large businesses are sending their produce to Kathmandu, Pokhara, Butwal and Nepalganj, while small businesses are selling in the local market and neighboring districts. Dragon fruit farming has revolutionized agriculture industry in the district in less than 8 years. Time again for a short breather. We shall be back with international updates. The United States says it has carried out an 11th consecutive night of strikes on military targets in Iran as tensions continue to escalate over security in the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. Central Command said the latest strikes targeted Iranian military operations centers, maritime capabilities, aircraft hangars, drone storage facilities, and logistic infrastructure. The U.S. military said the operations are aimed at reducing Iran's ability to threaten commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most important energy transit routes. Both U.S. and Iran accuse each other of attacks, with CENTCOM saying Iran has attacked more than 30 commercial vessels in the waterway over the past 3 months. The latest military action comes as Washington and Tehran continue to exchange warnings, with President Donald Trump saying Iran is seeking a way to ease tensions, but that the United States is not yet prepared to resume talks. Meanwhile, the United States says Iran is not taking negotiations seriously as fighting entered its 11th consecutive day, with the conflict raising concerns over global energy supplies and freedom of navigation. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Washington remains open to diplomacy but accused Tehran of failing to engage seriously in efforts to end the conflict. Speaking at the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting in Manila, Rubio warned that allowing Iran to control the Strait of Hormuz would set a dangerous global precedent, threatening freedom of navigation through one of the world's busiest maritime trade routes.
If we create a precedent in the Middle East where a nation state can decide that they are going to control an international waterway, charge a toll, and if you don't pay them, blow up your ships, we have created a very dangerous precedent which will repeat itself in other parts of the world, including in this region.
The conflict has already disrupted energy markets for tankers carrying Saudi crude oil to Asia reversed course in the Red Sea on Wednesday, following threats by Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi rebels to target Saudi shipping. Moving on, protests over examination scandals in India are gathering momentum, with opposition parties backing a student-led movement demanding accountability from the government. Thousands of protesters gathered in New Delhi on Wednesday as demonstrations over alleged examination irregularities continued to grow. The movement, led by social media-driven Cockroach Janata Party, is calling for reforms to the country's examination system and the resignation of Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan. Protesters have remained at the Jantar Mantar demonstration site despite a police crackdown earlier this week. The campaign received a political boost after opposition parties joined the protest, staging demonstrations and raising the issue of parliament. Senior opposition leaders, including Congress leader Rahul Gandhi and Samajwadi Party chief Akhilesh Yadav, accused the government of failing to address concerns over examination scandals and the impact on millions of young people. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is due back in a U.S. court as legal proceedings continue over drug trafficking charges following his transfer to the United States earlier this year. Maduro appeared in federal court in New York on Wednesday, where his legal team is expected to continue challenging the U.S. operation that brought him from Venezuela to face trial. The Venezuelan leader and his wife, Celia Flores, have been held in New York since January after U.S. authorities carried out an operation in Caracas to detain them. Both have pleaded not guilty to charges alleging they conspired to traffic cocaine into United States and could face life sentences if convicted. U.S. prosecutors allege Maduro worked with members of Venezuela's security forces to facilitate large-scale cocaine shipments to the United States. Maduro has rejected the allegations and maintains that his transfer to the United States was unlawful, while Trump administration has defended the operation as a law enforcement action tied to a long-running criminal investigation. China has expanded its zero-tariff treatment to 63 countries as part of efforts to strengthen trade and promote greater economic openness. Chinese customs authorities say the policy is supported by new regulatory measures, including risk-based customs management and expanded green channels for agriculture and food imports. The initiative now covers all 53 African countries that maintain diplomatic relations with China following the expansion that took effect in May. More international news and sports update coming up next. For now, short breather. Japan is facing an intense heat wave with temperatures exceeding 40 degrees Celsius for a second consecutive day, prompting nationwide heat stroke warnings. Authorities issued heat stroke alerts across most of the country on Wednesday as a persistent high-pressure system continued to push temperatures to extreme levels.
政府としましては、学校の体育館等へのエアコン設置支援であるとか、クーリングシェルターの活用促進、また働く方の現場における休息場所の整備や健康管理の徹底に加えて、室内の温度に応じてエアコンを自動起動するシステムなどの新しい技術の活用に取り組んでいるところです。
The highest temperature reached 40.5 degrees Celsius in Mie Prefecture, while several other locations recorded temperatures above 39 degrees. France has approved legislation banning children under the age of 15 from accessing social media, becoming the first country in Europe to introduce such a nationwide restriction. France's parliament passed the bill on Tuesday, with the measure now awaiting a review by the Constitutional Council before it can become law. If approved, children under 15 will be blocked from creating new accounts on social media platforms from September, while existing accounts will be phased out from January next year. The legislation places responsibility on social media companies to verify users' ages and enforce the restrictions. The move comes amid growing international concern over the impact of social media on children's mental health and online safety. France's public health authorities have previously warned that platforms such as TikTok, Snapchat and Instagram can have harmful effects on adolescents, particularly teenage girls. The legislation includes exemptions for educational platforms and online encyclopedias and forms part of a broader effort to strengthen child protection in the digital environment. Time now for the sports update. Nepal has suffered a narrow defeat to Kazakhstan in its opening match of the Central Asian Volleyball Association Championship in Islamabad. After losing the first two sets, Nepal produced a spirited comeback by winning the third set 34-32 before taking the fourth to level the match. However, Kazakhstan held on the deciding fifth set to seal a 3-2 victory. Despite the loss, Nepal's fighting performance kept the contest alive until the final set, is an encouraging start to the tournament. Nepal will next face Sri Lanka on Thursday, following by matches against host Pakistan, Bangladesh and Uzbekistan in the remaining group stage fixtures. Time now for the headlines. Cabinet scraps 3% equity tax on private education and health services, also approves relief measures for loan shark victims and international airlines. 6 UML ministers resign from the Bagmati province government. Chief Minister Indra Bahadur Bania-led government falls into minority. Nepal prepares for one of its hottest years in 3 decades. Experts urge impact-based forecast to reduce risk of extreme heat. United States carries out an 11th straight night of strikes in Iran. Attacks come amid escalating tensions over security in the Strait of Hormuz. Student-led protests intensify across India. Opposition parties join calls for accountability and education reform. And Nepal suffers a narrow defeat to Kazakhstan in its opening match of the Central Asian Volleyball Association Championship in Islamabad. That's it for this edition of Primetime News. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepal time. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Suviksha Rajak. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu. Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World, facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal. Telling stories that endure across centuries. Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World.
Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands. Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
Hello and welcome to The Perspective on NTV World. I am Sabika Shrestha, your host for the program. From major headlines to the issues behind them, we break down the week's top stories and explore how they are shaping the path forward. In this episode, we talk about ongoing monsoon, its impact and both pros and cons. For a country like Nepal, the monsoon is both a lifeline and a challenge. While seasonal rainfall is essential for paddy plantation, agriculture and replenishing water resources, climate change is making monsoon patterns increasingly erratic and intense, amplifying the risk of disasters. Unplanned development, fragile infrastructure, weak drainage systems and poorly managed road construction have further increased the country's vulnerability. Nepal is now facing a renewed spell of intense monsoon activity with heavy to very heavy rainfall forecast across several provinces. Authorities have warned of an increased risk of floods, landslides, inundation and river overflows. In major cities such as Kathmandu, even moderate rainfall frequently leaves roads waterlogged, disrupts traffic and exposes shortcomings in urban drainage and infrastructure. Meanwhile, rising water levels in major rivers including Koshi have prompted heightened monitoring. Key highways have been closed as a precaution and emergency agencies have stepped up preparedness measures. As the rains continue, the monsoon is once again highlighting both its vital role in sustaining livelihoods and its devastating impact through floods, landslides, road accidents, drowning incidents,
displacement, and damage to lives and property. While climate change is making Nepal's monsoon more intense and unpredictable, unplanned bulldozer-driven development, haphazard road construction, and poor urban planning are turning seasonal rainfall into a growing disaster. Roads and rural tracks are the first signs of development anywhere in the world, but the opening tracks and motorable roads haphazardly in the name of development in hilly terrains have their own sorrow. Nepal has been bearing the brunt of the so-called bulldozer development with recurring landslides that are displacing entire villages. Here's the story.
Roads are synonymous to development in any country, and Nepal is not an exception. Whether at the local or provincial level, governments have prioritized extending roads to every village. However, due to the tendency of opening tracks without accessing soil conditions, rock formations, or conducting geological studies, many rural roads are creating serious risk of landslides in the highlands. With the onset of the monsoon each year, landslides frequently block these rural roads, disrupting transportation. Beyond road closures, landslides also destroy fertile land while making the hilly settlements and slopes increasingly unsafe. Experts describe this trend as bulldozer development.
हाम्रो चाहिँ भिरालो जमिनलाई काटेर स्टेबलाइज कसरी गर्ने भन्ने उपाय गरिएन, पानीको समुचित निकास गर्न सकिएन। अर्को कुरा हामीले चाहिँ कति एंगलमा कुन बाटोमा अथवा कुन चट्टानी पहाडमा चाहिँ कसरी लिएर जाने भन्ने कुराको अध्ययन नगरिकिन हामीले चाहिँ सामान्यतया डोजरी विकास भन्छौं, त्यसले गर्दा चाहिँ आको देखिन्छ।
Making the matter worse is the changing meteorological pattern, much due to climate change, that has totally changed the precipitation with intense rainfall in short periods. Such heavy downpours significantly heighten the risk of landslides along the tracks and rural roads opened without proper planning or scientific assessment. Despite experts' recommendation to open tracks and roads after conducting through geological studies and planning, the trend of bulldozer development continues, especially at the end of the fiscal year that happens to be peak monsoon.
जुन ठाउँमा हामीले बाटो बनाउँदै छौं त्यहाँको भौगोलिक संरचना के हो भन्ने कुरा अध्ययन गर्नुपर्यो, जुन चाहिँ भूगर्भविदले अथवा जियोलोजिस्टहरूले गर्छन्। दोस्रो कुरा के हुन्छ त भन्दा त्यहाँ कट गर्ने बेलामा सामान्यतया रोड बनाउँदाखेरि ट्रान्सपोर्टेसन इन्जिनियरिङमा कुन एंगलबाट लिएर आउने, कुन डाइरेक्सनमा जाने भन्ने कुराको अध्ययनहरू गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ, त्यो अध्ययन गर्नुपर्यो। र तेस्रो कुरा चाहिँ त्यो स्लोपलाई काटिसकेपछि अथवा काट्नुभन्दा पहिले कति डिग्रीमा काट्ने भनेर चाहिँ त्यसको अध्ययन हुनुपर्यो र काटिसकेपछि त्यहाँ चाहिँ त्यो स्लोपलाई चाहिँ अड्याउनको लागि जसलाई हामी रिटेनिङ वालहरू भन्छौं अथवा त्यसका विभिन्न प्रकारहरू हुन्छन्, तीनहरू चाहिँ त्यहाँ राख्नुपर्यो, जसले गर्दा पहाड चाहिँ नि त्यसले टेवा वाल जस्तो दिन्छ हामीले। अर्को चाहिँ माथिबाट बगेर आउने जुन पानी छ त्यसको चाहिँ समुचित निकास हुनुपर्यो।
In a hilly and mountainous terrains of Nepal, natural landslides cannot be completely averted. However, experts argue that long-term solutions such as constructing tunnels along major highways based on geographical conditions could substantially reduce landslide risks. They have stressed strong legal provisions to discourage the practice of opening tracks and roads haphazardly, which they say can significantly reduce the risk of landslides each monsoon.
Beyond floods and landslides, the monsoon also brings a silent tragedy. In Nepal's Tarai, drowning remains one of the leading causes of accidental child deaths during the rainy season, as overflowing water bodies and unsecured rain-filled pits continue to pose deadly risks to children. Drowning of children to death has been one of the serious problems in Nepal in open pits, ponds and waterlogged areas, especially in the Tarai region every monsoon. Around 70% of these deaths occur in Madhya province, with most incidents taking place in ponds, lakes, rivers and streams with open access. Child rights advocates say parents, communities, local governments and state agencies must work together to keep children safe and prevent drowning during the rainy season. Here's the story.
Child drowning has emerged as a recurring tragedy in Nepal, particularly during the rainy season, as inadequate management and monitoring of ponds, water bodies, waterlogged areas, rivers and streams continue to put children at risk. According to the data, nearly 70% of drowning deaths in lakes and ponds occur in Madhya province, while Bagmati province records the lowest number. According to Nepal police statistics covering the 5-year period up to the last fiscal year, a total of 1,485 children lost their lives due to drowning across Nepal, of which 1,025 were boys and 460 were girls. A total of 429 children drowned in lakes and ponds, while 464 lost their lives in rivers and streams, making these the leading sites of drowning incidents. In addition, 9 children drowned in wells and 12 children died after drowning in septic tanks, highlighting the wide range of water-related hazards that continue to pose a serious threat to children's safety across Nepal. The data further shows that Madhya province recorded the highest number of child drowning deaths in lakes and ponds, with 239 fatalities over the 5-year period. Nepal police says several factors, including open excavation pits being left unmanaged, absence of protective barriers or fencing around ponds, lakes, rivers and streams, and insufficient parental supervision contribute to these accidents.
बर्खाको समयमा यस्ता घटनाहरू बढी हुने भएको कारणले त्यसप्रति सचेत रहन र सम्बन्धित निकायहरूलाई समेत समन्वय गर्दै खास गरी स्थानीय प्रशासन, स्थानीय निकायहरू, सरकारवालाहरू, यसमा खास जिम्मेवारी भनेको अभिभावकहरूले आफ्नो बालबालिकाहरूलाई ख्याल नगर्दाखेरि यस्ता दुःखद घटना घटेका छन् भने त्यसैगरी कसैले कुनै पर्पोजको लागि खाल्डो बनाइन्छ भने त्यो खाल्डोलाई अर्थात् त्यो खोला भनौँ न त्यो ताल पोखरीलाई विशेषतः सुरक्षाको उपायहरू अपनाउनु पर्ने हुन्छ। त्यहाँ तारबारका कुराहरू हुन्छ, त्यहाँ चाहिँ सचेतनामूलक बोर्डहरू राख्नुपर्ने अवस्थाहरू हुन्छ। यस्तो कुराहरूमा विशेष ध्यान दिनुपर्ने कुराहरू हुन्छ।
Child rights advocates stress that reducing this risk requires higher vigilance and responsibility from parents, communities, local governments and all state agencies concerned to ensure children's safety during the rainy season.
Children are becoming increasingly vulnerable to drowning to death in the Madhya region of Nepal, especially during monsoon. 3 children from a single family drowned in a rain-filled pit in Siraha district. The incident in Gol Bazar has raised concern over the safety of children as well as exposed the problem of unmanaged water-induced hazards, especially at construction and excavation sites. Correspondent Hiralal Chaudhary reports.
3 siblings died after drowning in a pit filled with rainwater at the Choharba livestock market in Gol Bazar municipality, Ward 7, Siraha. Police have identified the deceased as 12-year-old Shabnam Khatun, 10-year-old Rubina Khatun, and 8-year-old Shaful Sheikh, all of the same family. The family originally belongs to Jinghawa 2 in Rohtahat district. Their father, Awash Sheikh, has been living in the area for several years, working as a scrap collector. According to the father, he had gone out for work when the incident occurred. The children's mother was occupied with household chores at the time.
ऊ डुबले बा हमरा लड़का डुबले ओकरे बाद में तब ई छौरी फान ले एकरे बाद में वो एक बार लड़की रहे वो फान ले पकड़ेला तले सब सामान ये सरकार से नगरपालिका से हमरे क्षतिपूर्ति चाहिए ना.
The pit where the children drowned had been formed after gravel was excavated during a local road construction project near the family's rented residence. Family members and local residents have demanded that the local government take responsibility for the incident and provide compensation.
रात 11 बजे खमने हैं तो नगर पालिका की गलती नहीं तो क्या कर गलती है इतना का हमरा के इंसाफ चाहिए और कुछ नहीं चाहिए इंसाफ चाहिए
केटा घर में से 3 गो बच्चा अथी भ गेले का मर गेले का काल भने और केकरो बच्चा जा सके है न तो ये रात खून का मतलब जैसे रोड बना देने हैं पूरे एकदम गहिर कर देने हैं
घर के बगल में खुना है कि चौड़ी में खुना है चौड़ी में खुना है घर के पछाड़ी में खड्डा खुनल का एकरा एक छोटी बेटा बच्चा मर देख ले बाबी गुना एकर क्षतिपूर्ति कर देते.
Open pits that collect rainwater during the monsoon remain a reoccurring hazard in the district. Local governments have been urged to identify and secure such sites, particularly where excavation work is underway. Police say investigations into the incident are continuing. The tragedy has left one family devastated and raised fresh questions about safety oversight at construction and excavation sites during the monsoon.
Now turning to the brighter side of the monsoon, beyond the wrecks, the monsoon is the lifeline of Nepal's agriculture. Nepal has completed around 75% of its annual rice plantation, with the Ministry of Agriculture saying farming activities have progressed as expected despite a delayed monsoon onset. Sudar Paschim province recorded the highest transplantation rate at over 90%, while authorities expect nearly 97% of paddy fields to be planted by the end of the season. Let's explore more.
The Ministry of Agriculture says that as of Sunday, approximately 75% of paddy plantation had been completed nationwide, compared with 72.14% during the same period last year. Sudar Paschim province has recorded the highest plantation rate at 90.67%, while Kosi province has the lowest at around 55%. Madhya province, Nepal's largest rice-producing region, has also shown improvement with 57.13% of plantation completed compared to 46.83% during the same period last year. According to the ministry, plantation has reached 80.65% in Lumbini province, 78.36% in Gandaki province, 77.33% in Bagmati province, and 77.05% in Karnali province. As rice planting continues throughout the Nepali month of Shravan, the ministry expects around 97% of the country's paddy fields to be planted by the end of the season. It also projects this year's paddy production to reach between 5.8 and 6 million metric tons.
आजसम्मको ट्रेनहरुलाई 90% प्लस चाहिँ रोपाइ हुने सम्भावना देखिन्छ। त्यस हिसाबले हेर्दाखेरि 5-7% को तलमाथि भए तापनि टोटल प्रोडक्सनमा चाहिँ यो वर्ष अझ राम्रो हुने अवस्था देखिएको छ। किन भन्दा अहिले हामीलाई दुईटा चीजले फरक पारेको हो कि जस्तो देखिन्छ। एउटा ढिलो वर्षा भएको अवस्था छ, अर्को यो अब फ्युलको प्राइस बढेको कारणले गर्दा रासायनिक मलको आपूर्ति चाहिँ समयमा सोचे जति किसानले अपेक्षा गरे अनुसार भएको छैन कि भन्ने छ। तर त्यसको विकल्पमा अहिले कृषकहरुको तर्फबाट के छ भन्दा हाम्रो आफ्नै प्राङ्गारिक उत्पादन पनि प्रशस्त छ र सँगसँगै हाम्रो बायो फर्टिलाइजरको चाहिँ एप्लिकेसनहरु गर्ने त्यसलाई इन्करेज गर्ने काम पनि मन्त्रालयले गरिरहेको छ र सँगसँगै हाम्रो बजेटले र हाम्रो विनियोजन बजेटले जति खरिद गर्न सकिन्थ्यो त्यसलाई यसको डिस्ट्रिब्युसन चाहिँ राम्रो बनाएको कारणले यो वर्ष रासायनिक मलको पनि जति उपलब्ध छ त्यसको अब किसानको हकमा किसानले पाउने मात्रामा चाहिँ राम्रोसँग पाएको अवस्था देखिन्छ।
According to the ministry, improved irrigation facilities and better availability of chemical fertilizers have helped maintain the pace of plantation across most provinces despite below average rainfall at the start of the monsoon. Official data show that rice has so far been planted on 958,574 hectares of land out of Nepal's total 1,373,862 hectares of cultivable paddy area.
The monsoon is also energizing Nepal's hydropower sector. Nepal is producing more electricity than even before, but a lack of transmission capacity is forcing power producers to reduce generation. Around 80 hydropower projects are currently operating at only about 90% of their capacity after demand failed to absorb all the electricity being generated. The situation has raised concerns among private power producers who say thousands of megawatts of potential energy could go to waste without urgent infrastructure upgrades. Kamal Aryal with Siksha Bhattrai on Sound brings more.
Nepal's energy sector is facing a growing contradiction. The country has ambitious plans to export electricity, including a government target of sending 10,000 megawatts of power to India over the next decade. But the national grid is struggling to carry the electricity already being produced. Government and private sector projects are currently generating more than 4,300 megawatts of electricity. Of that, around 2,600 megawatts is consumed domestically, while approximately 1,200 megawatts is being exported to India. More than 500 megawatts of additional electricity remains unused. Private producers say if this surplus power could be exported, Nepal could earn around 9 billion rupees during a single season. Instead, they warn wasted electricity could mean an annual loss of the same amount. The issue has become a major concern for independent power producers.
दोर्दी कोरिडोर लगायतकोमा त कन्टिन्जेन्सीमा रन भइरहेछ। अहिले बर्खामा तपाईँको भनेको 30% को हाराहारीमा बल्ल चाहिँ विद्युत चाहिँ उत्पादन भइरहेको छ त्यसमा। अब भन्दाखेरि त्यो सबै बिजुली बाँकी खेर गइरहेको छ। दोर्दी कोरिडोरले योभन्दा अगाडि नै झनै 5 अर्बभन्दा बढी बिजुली खेर गइसकेको अवस्था छ र अरू प्रोजेक्टहरूमा पनि डिस्प्याच इन्स्ट्रक्सन चाहिँ इस्यु गरिरहेको छ, जसले चाहिँ 90% को हाराहारीमा मात्रै बिजुली उत्पादन भइरहेको छ।
Energy authorities say work is underway to prevent electricity wastage. The government says it is upgrading transmission infrastructure and expanding the capacity of the national grid. Transmission lines in urban areas, including Kathmandu Valley, Pokhara and Chitwan, are being upgraded, with some sections being placed underground. Authorities are also working to expand the 132 kilovolt grid network from the east to west and improve the distribution system.
पावर इभ्याकुएसन बढाउनको लागि चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ पुरानै लाइनमा पनि जस्तै 132 केबी को लाइनलाई पनि हामी चाहिँ एचटीएलएस कन्डक्टरले चाहिँ अपग्रेड गरेर चाहिँ पावर इभ्याकुएसन क्यापेसिटी बढाउने काम भइरहेको छ। उपत्यका लगायत शहरी क्षेत्र पोखरा भरतपुरहरुमा चाहिँ लाइन विस्तार गर्नको लागि चाहिँ हामी अन्डरग्राउन्ड केबलहरु पनि constructionको अन्तिम चरणमा रहेको अवस्था छ।
Energy sector stakeholders say weak transmission infrastructure, limited substation capacity, and management challenges are preventing Nepal from fully utilizing its growing electricity production. They are calling for immediate expansion of transmission capacity and greater participation of the private sector in electricity trading.
Despite domestic infrastructure bottlenecks, Nepal's hydropower sector is making gains abroad, with electricity exports to India emerging as a major source of revenue. Once viewed primarily as an untapped natural resource, Nepal's hydropower is becoming one of the country's most valuable economic assets. Growing electricity export is generating billions in revenue while reshaping Nepal's role in the South Asian energy market. Sarah Sapsanamarai brings this to you.
On July 15, Nepal expanded its electricity exports once again, signing an agreement to send an additional 550 megawatts of power to India, increasing total cross-border export capacity to 1,650 megawatts. The milestone comes just a few years after Nepal began commercial power exports to India in 2021, highlighting the country's rapid emergence as a regional clean energy supplier. Electricity exports grew from 2,339 gigawatt hours in fiscal year 2021-22 to a record 3,752 gigawatt hour in the fiscal year 2023-24. Although exports declined to 1,933 gigawatt hour in the fiscal year 2024-25, largely reflecting the seasonal nature of Nepal's run-of-river hydropower system, they rebounded to 2,380 gigawatt hour the following year, generating 17.47 billion rupees in export revenue. Beyond India, Nepal has also entered the Bangladeshi market. Under a landmark trilateral power trade agreement signed in 2024, Nepal now exports 40 megawatts of electricity to Bangladesh through India's transmission network, marking one of South Asia's most significant examples of regional energy cooperation. Today, Nepal is a seasonal net exporter of electricity. During monsoon, when river flows are at their highest, the country exports around 600 to 650 megawatts of electricity each day to India and Bangladesh combined. After earning 17.47 billion rupees from power exports in the fiscal year 2024-25, Nepal reported 18.26 billion rupees in just the first 5 months of the fiscal year 2025-26, placing it on course to surpass the previous year's record.
That's the perspective for this week. We will be back next week with major updates of the week. Stay tuned to NTV World.
Hello there and welcome to this new episode of NTV World Inside. Our focus for today is the largest internal organ in our body, that is liver. Today we are accompanied by Professor Dr. Ramesh Singh Bhandari, the surgeon leading Nepal's liver transplant program. Over the next 40 minutes or so, we'll try and cover how livers fail, when transplantation becomes necessary, how the procedure works in Nepal, what are the costs for it and accessibility, the outcomes and complications, and what patients and families need to know to make an informed decision. Dr. Bhandari, welcome to Inside.
Thank you, Ms. Sarah. Thank you.
Let's begin with what liver is and why is it important?
The number of function it does is really comparable with any other parts, other organs or parts of our body, except like our brain. We sometimes, as a liver surgeon, we sometimes call it as a factory house of our body, human body. Multiple functions, briefly, common ones. The first thing is what it makes is it makes a lot of proteins, like our antibodies, which are proteins which are required for our immunities, to protecting from infections and various other harmful objects in the body. Besides that, we call it coagulation factors. That means whenever there is bleeding, it has to make clots and stop bleeding anywhere in the body. And after that, it excretes from the body the harmful subjects or chemicals or bioproducts that are produced inside the body, in the liver and body. It excretes through the bile, through the intestine. Next is, it also helps in storing things, like glucose, commonly known. We know it that whenever we are in starvations, we are not eating, then it's the liver which supplies the glucose for some time. Besides, there are a lot of elements, microelements, that are reserved in our liver, and whenever we need it, whenever we have a prolonged scarcity of those, then the liver can keep on producing it, feeding the body. Mm-hmm. And besides, the other important part of the liver is the digestion. It secretes bile, it goes into the intestine, and which helps in digesting food materials. Mm-hmm. So these are usually common ones, but if I keep on explaining, it will take a whole day to explain you the whole function of the liver.
How common liver failure or liver issues are globally and in Nepal?
It's very common, quite common, in comparing to the worldwide data or our own data, what we have seen. There are many common problems, but the severity, the types of problems they vary from very, simple or which is easily curable to very complex problems. So the one which comes to me, I'm a surgeon, so I operate on patients with liver problems. So most of them are surgical problems, like patients who have liver cyst, which needs to be resected. They can form stones in the liver. Besides, I think the commonest problem, major problem that I see is the cancers. Mm-hmm. The cancers of the liver itself, and the cancer from the whole body can metastasize to liver, which needs to be resected. And these are very common things that I see because I work in the tertiary liver hospital. And besides that, what we frequently talk these days is the chronic liver disease. They actually go to our hepatologist and gastroenterologist, but those who need transplants, who needs the new liver, then they are referred to us. Mm-hmm. So besides that, there are many other minor problems. I would say don't call minor if any problem is there in the liver, but still it's easily curable as one as well.
So what types of liver failure have we so far observed?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we can divide these liver failures into acute and chronic. So the chronic ones, that what we frequently see is the disease process takes a long time to develop, and then subsequently the liver functions get deteriorated and they start producing symptoms, and ultimately we have features of all the liver failures that we can discuss later on. So the common ones that we see is due to alcohol, hepatitis B, C infections. Besides that, this is a new term. It's not new actually. The fatty liver disease, what we kind of discuss in next few minutes time, and the next acute liver failure means the patient actually is normal. 6, 7, 8 weeks back, the patient is completely healthy. The liver is totally healthy. There has not been any insults in the liver. Then suddenly there is some insult, maybe infections, some drug poisoning, or any other insults, which can then rapidly deteriorate the function of the liver, and then patient can land up with the features of liver failure. That what we call as acute liver failure. At the end, when we call acute liver failure, in fact, the symptoms are similar. The symptoms of liver failure, we can discuss that, are similar. But the duration of the disease, the time course it takes is like, that's what makes it different from acute and chronic. And the main other difference is the outcomes and management as well. So most of the chronic liver disease, when they develop liver failure, features of liver failure, usually they require the liver transplant. They require a new liver. But a lot of acute liver patients may be treated medically and without surgical interventions, and only a small portion of those patients who develop acute liver failure may require transplants.
For cases triggered by maybe infections like hepatitis B or C, it shows up in a few weeks' time.
Yes.
In case of chronic liver failure, what is the common age factor that you have observed?
It can appear at any age. Even a child can develop features of chronic liver disease. It depends upon the etiology, what causes that liver failure. But in an adult, the commonest cause that we have encountered these days is the alcohol, long-term abuse of alcohol, and Hep C infections, and the prolonged fatty liver disease. So the common age where that patients present to us is between 40 to 60. They start taking alcohol or have their infections in their early 20s or 30s, and next 10, 15, 20 years time they damage their liver, and then subsequently they develop all these features. So commonly it's between 40 to 60 that we encounter these patients, but having said that, they can come after 60s as well. And in children, usually what we call as those who have problems inborn, in utero they have infections. There are some genetic factors as well. Some genetic disease, that means there are certain elements or some enzymes or elements that are deficient in the body, and that leads to the damage of the liver, and then subsequently all the features of liver failure and require transplants, or even some vertical infections, what we call as from maternal to the child. Even the baby can get those infections, and these kids will require transplants. The other is there are some birth defects. Birth defects doesn't always mean that what we see. So the defects can be within the liver as well. So one common birth defect that we see is there is a failure of development of these biliary ducts, bile ducts. So when they are born, initially they can handle it, but as the toxic material, the bilirubin that is produced, cannot be excreted from the body because there are no bile ducts which can take it into the intestine. So subsequently this keeps on accumulating, and the baby develop all the features. So by 1 year, 2 years time, these babies are sick. So it depends upon the age as well.
Apart from the genetic aspect of the causes, as we discussed earlier, alcohol seems to be one lifestyle choice that triggers liver failure in a long run. But alcohol is also a big part of our social and cultural life globally, and especially in Nepal as well. How much alcohol is okay if you want to avoid liver failure?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. Everyone asks me this, and honestly speaking, and although it's the use, as you said, is worldwide, there is no one that, it's very small number of people may not use alcohol, okay, maybe in different forms and different ways. Honestly speaking, there is no safe limit of alcohol. So although books can say in different units, if you consume this much of unit for this much of time, you are more likely to damage the liver. But what I see is it's like sometimes what we call as like idiosyncratic reactions. That means your body doesn't know on what amount it will react. Okay, so even a small amount of drink frequently can damage the liver. But if you are lucky, you are taking a substantial amount of alcohol for a long time, your liver may still be healthy. But if you take frequently excessive volume for a long time, then it's 100% sure that your liver is going to get damaged. It also depends on various things. You suppose you drink once in a while, once in a week or 2 weeks time, but you equally exercise, you also control your diet, you take care of your dietary habits. If you have diabetes, you have all in control, okay? Maybe it can nullify the effect of the damage caused by the alcohol. And especially in females, there is one enzyme, alcohol dehydrogenase enzyme. So that helps in metabolizing the alcohol that we intake. So that's deficient, weak in females. So if you and me drink together, the same amount of yes will damage your liver more likely than mine. So there are so many things that can play around how the alcohol damages the liver. But straightforward to say, no amount of alcohol is safe to drink. We, as a physician or surgeons, cannot recommend anybody that okay, this much of alcohol is safe to drink. Okay, it upon the individual's risks to take it or not take it.
While the moderate amount might differ person to person,
exactly,
women are more susceptible.
Yeah.
What kind of symptoms should people be wary about if whether they need to get a diagnosis?
What we talked is the chronic liver disease. So these all factors, the one alcohol, as I said, even Hep B, C infections, fatty liver disease. The problem with these these etiologies is in the beginning of the disease process, patient may not have any symptoms. Okay, so the liver is being damaged. There is ongoing damage in the liver, but clinically, patient may not have any obvious symptoms. So many times we just miss it. So by the time they present to us with symptoms, usually it's a very evident liver disease. That means the liver disease is already at a very significant phase. So when it becomes reaches that phase, then it's quite easy to detect that the patient has developed liver disease. The common symptoms they develop at during the chronicity is that there is a less protein production from the liver, so which means there will be swelling of the body. Your body will swell, what we call as in ascites, your leg, there will be edema, swelling of the body. Besides, we form abnormal vessels in our GI tract. So from there they start bleeding. So they can have bleeding from the mouth, they can have bleed their stools.
GI tract, you mean intestines?
Intestine, especially in esophagus. They develop abnormal vessels which can easily rupture. We call them as varices. That's very common in these patients. So they bleed, they can bleed in the stool, they can have this bleeding in the vomiters, or they can have small minor cuts and they can have prolonged bleedings. Next is, as the course gets damaged, they start having jaundice, the yellowish discoloration of the eyes, and then it progresses to involve the whole of the body. And if it gets more severe, then patients start developing features of encephalopathy. That means even the brain is affected because the toxic material that's produced is not being excreted from the body. It accumulates inside the body, and that produces the effect. So people, initially their sleep pattern is damaged, but later on they might start talking very abnormally, and may have features, and at time and again they can be unconscious as well. So that's very unfortunate about these liver disease problem, that when they start developing these symptoms, actually it's already late. So in between, it's very difficult to figure out whether the patient is having liver disease or not. But yes, there are some subtle signs sometimes, we can see. And any suspicious patients, how we find it then means, so if the patient has Hep B infections, if we know the patient is, the individual is a chronic alcohol abuser, we know that there is obese, possibility of having fatty liver disease, okay, he has diabetes, hypertension, hypercholesterolemia. So in these group of individuals, we can do frequent, physical checkups, the blood checkups, and then we can have an idea whether how the liver is functioning or not.
When we talk about alcohol and health deterioration, oftentimes alcohol and smoking come in pair.
Yes.
Does smoking have any correlation?
Yeah, lot. So it's a very interesting fact that the alcohol and smoking have a very synergistic effect. So what alcohol damages, if you add on smoking, it exaggerates. No matter any part of the body, it's not just specific to any. Alcohol more damages the liver. Smoking damages more to the lungs. But when you have combined these both, the effect is even more dangerous. So liver disease can be exaggerated by adding smoking. It's just not related with liver disease only, any cancers. There are a lot of cancers in the whole human body that when these two are combined, the effect is very much exaggerated, and the patients can develop these cancers as well. So it's very dangerous combinations.
Now let's move on to the tests. Once patients show symptoms and they reach hospitals, what tests are performed to confirm that there is issue in the liver?
Okay. So what we usually do is to see the function, the liver status of the liver. We have various enzymes that we check, what we call as liver function test. And in that we look for bilirubins, which is one of the products. which is excreted by the liver. So if the liver is being damaged, then there will be increase in bilirubin. No matter what's the cause of the production of the bilirubin, there is a rise in bilirubin. That may be one hint, the rise in bilirubin. But good thing is, whenever there is rise in bilirubin, there is always some yellowish discoloration of the eyes. So you can make out from the physical examinations. But not all patients may have high bilirubin. As I said, in the initial period, when liver is still functioning, some part is now being damaged, but the overall function is still maintained. So in those cases, the early changes we see is in liver enzymes. So any physician or a surgeon who is looking after liver can tell you that, okay, your liver enzymes are getting abnormal, like what we call as SGOT, SCPT. These are very specific enzymes. We sometimes call it alkaline aspartates, ASTs, and the other gamma GT enzymes. So their level starts increasing. That's the earliest features we can pick up on the blood. So any abnormality on these enzymes, we have to be very cautious. And the patient may not have symptoms, but we tell that there is some abnormality in enzymes. Sometimes even viral infections or some medicines that you have taken might also increase that enzymes, but it should not be taken very lightly. So what we usually do is any rise in these enzymes, we follow these patients. In next 2 weeks time, 4 weeks time, we again check these enzymes and we see how these enzymes keep on increasing. If they are increasing, then it's a concerning. We need to evaluate further. Whether we might sometimes even need to take liver biopsy to prove that there is ongoing damage in the liver. So that's how we, these are very simple ways to do, but there are nowadays so many other complex, more complicated tests as well, which is not always necessary. We can always start with the simple ones and then slowly we can progress.
And that perhaps pushes me to the next question.
Yeah.
What warrants a liver transplantation?
Okay. So liver transplant is the extreme. So when the individual has damaged the liver completely and there is no chance that it is coming back. So that means structurally also the liver is damaged and the function wise also it's all gone. So whatever the functions that I explained, now it's not doing. Okay. So, but still there is some minor function that it's doing. That is why patient is alive. But before it completely fails, we try to find out that phase. Now the patient is going to completely fail if we don't transplant. That's how we do is based on various our investigations, when we have various criteria that can guide us. Okay, this patient needs urgent transplant or in 2 months or 3 months or 6 months time. So we figure out from those formulas. We have those very good predicting formulas. We use that, and then based on that we tell patients that now your liver needs to be transplanted. So we have various criteria like male criteria. We have child classifications. These are more of surgical and medical terms, very maybe difficult for a layman to understand it. But there are ways, and these all depends upon the blood parameters and symptoms. Suppose I said, if patient is having severe jaundice, the bilirubin is very high, patient is already having abdominal distension because the fluid is being accumulated in the body, and he's having frequent bleeding from the mouth, and also having features of encephalopathy. So that means the liver is failing.
What was the term you used and what does it mean?
Encephalopathy means the patient, the mental status is being altered. Now is like unconscious or talking irrelevantly. The sleep pattern is damaged. So the brain is also being affected. So these are the situations that tell us directly that now patient is in the right time to be transplanted. If we delay it, then the chances that patient may have a complete failure and die.
And what types of liver transplant available globally and in Nepal? Okay,
so before that I think I add on this is what I said for chronic liver disease. So in acute liver failure, that's again is very important. It's not so common like what we see for chronic liver disease patients, but we do encounter one of the very infrequently we hear about mushroom poisoning, that affects the liver and patient can develop acute liver failure. We have heard frequently in news that wild mushrooms, eating wild mushrooms, they develop liver failure. Similar to this, there are other poisoning also. In our part of the world, it's not so common, but in Western, in most developed nations, the paracetamol poisoning is quite common. So it's easily available drug. You can buy over the counter. So excessive intake of, they use it for suicidal or, any other reason. It's very common in the West.
How much is excessive?
Usually, up to 4 grams, we call it as for an adult is a safe dose. That means one tablet is around 500. So up to 8 tablets in a day, maybe say we can have 1 gram tablets as well. So 4 gram, we call it safe. But anything more than is very above the safety limit. But if you take more than 8-10 grams, then you're more likely to have a liver failure.
Acute
liver failure. So that means you have a perfectly normal liver, but that can damage the liver, and within few weeks' time, your whole liver function goes on. So that's the acute liver failure. So in those group of patients also, it's very difficult to say, as I said, in acute conditions, the liver is such a good organ that it can regenerate and come back to its full normal, the insult phase. But it's very difficult to find out which patients are going to recover and which are not, which are going to fail. So for that, again, there are so many criteria, our medical terminologies, So based on that, we try to decide, okay, this patient cannot come back with medical treatment, needs transplant, and we decide on that. So that guides us in, offering transplant in patients for acute liver.
And what types of transplant options are available globally and in Nepal?
So transplant basically for any organs, so whether it's a kidney or liver specifically, we have one is living donor liver transplant, the other is what we call as cadaveric transplants. So what we need to understand is in the Western developed nations, I was trained in Australia, so there 99% are all cadaverics. In the UK, US, 90-95 are cadaveric programs, and 5-10% are living donor programs. In our part of the world, in Asia, and India and Nepal, we have just started, I would say, even in Japan, in Korea, they are doing a big number of the transplants, but 90% are living donor. So that's the difference, living donor and cadaveric. So these are two types mainly. So living donor means it's been given by mostly relatives, a healthy adult, preferably the same blood groups, and within the the legal criteria. Cadaveric means it's a misnomer actually. Cadaveric means it's not a dead person. Okay, so many people think that you can retrieve organs from dead people. It's not dead people. So cadaveric is actually brain death people. So we have patients in ICUs. Okay, suppose a patient had severe head injuries, his brain is dead, but rest of the organs, including liver, kidneys, they are all functioning well. So we know that after brain death, then how do we know brain death is we have tests again. So our neurosurgeons, our critical care specialists can find out whether the patient has developed brain death or not, following the criteria. So once we declare a patient is a brain death, then that chances of coming back of that patient is 0. So before that patient, after the brain death, so after some time, maybe an hours or days, even other organs will start deteriorate and get damaged. So before that happens, we take those organs from these people, and then we transplant it in those who need it. So that's called cadaveric liver transplant or cadaveric organ transplants. So that's usually spooled for your liver, kidneys, pancreas, intestine, even skins, bones, tendons, like that.
And when we talk of this, there are a lot of speculations of organ trafficking as well. There's an ethical angle to it too. What policies are in place in Nepal to safeguard one from these dangers?
Okay, that's a very important, I think, issues and a concern. Fortunately, it's very in transplant program. I think the kidneys started back in 2008, so it's been more than almost now 20 years for kidneys. Liver we started in Nepal 2016, 10 years. I haven't heard about such bad incidents. One or twice there was some in news media, but in Nepal luckily it hasn't happened. But we keep on frequently hearing about in our neighboring countries that it has happened, and even our own Nepali citizens have been a part of that. This legal criteria has been made very nicely. There are strict criteria, and that it has defined who can donate. In fact, prior to 2016, it was quite strict. Very close relatives only could donate the organs. But after 2016, there has been some amendments, and it has been widened, those who can donate. And the good thing is, at least in our hospital, we have a strict policy that before anybody can decide to donate, we have a legal provision that they fulfill that strict criteria. So in every hospitals, at least in government hospitals, what we have seen in our hospital, in teaching hospital, we have a separate legal committee which includes the legal person, administrative staffs, and from the district administrative office as well. So they scrutinize, they go through all the details and find out whether they fit in these criteria of the relationship that can donate or not. So they have to go through. It's a bit lengthy process that sometimes makes our transplant procedure bit that delays things also, but that's very necessary. So they have to go through that. So once that committee decides that okay, the patient, the donor who is going to donate to the patients are legally related and they are fit within the defined criteria. So after that only then we start the process of all the evaluation, investigations, and about the donation and transplanting. So it's quite strict in our country, at least in government hospital. That's what I have seen. Now, especially in liver, I don't deny that it can never happen, but because the procedure itself is so complex, the donation process, the surgery itself is so process, and we try to get the best possible, graft or the donated liver. So that kind of possibility is very rare. Even someone wants to do it, even they escape from these legal provisions, it's very difficult someone to do this kind of things in liver transplants. Kidneys, we have heard, like I said, in our neighboring countries, but a good legal provisions and a very strict criteria to to scrutinize and to check whether they really fit in the criteria or not. Independent body which looks after this. That works well.
Dr. Bhandari, while the legal policies make sure that there are no concerns, foul plays, many people, I'm sure many of our viewers have witnessed patients lose their life because there have been delays in the official processes. Have you had such cases?
Yeah, a lot. Because now one of the reasons that we cannot transplant in patients, we can discuss that. There are various reasons why we can't transplant the patients. There is a patient, but the patient cannot get transplant. So among one of the common ones is they don't have donors. So as I said, the legal provision says that you should have a close relative who can donate, but many people do not have. Sometimes they do not have a matching blood group patients, blood group donors, even though relatives are ready to donate, they don't have a matched blood group, or they have matched blood group, but their anatomy, the complexity of their liver is so difficult that they cannot donate because the donation can itself put the donor at risk. So we don't take the liver from these kind of people. So yes, it happens, but I think for the sake of all those issues that we have concerned, and I don't think we can make these things more easier ones. Got to be very, I think, strict on this. So otherwise the impact of those things can, rather than the good or better effect, I think there are more negative effects of ignoring all these things. So I think it needs to be strict. Yeah.
So you support existing provisions as it is? Yeah,
as long, I think this is just a beginning. In fact, liver transplant has just started. We can discuss the numbers. So maybe in future when the number increases, the volume increases, there may be some provision in, and when our system is very strict and it's quite clear. There is no confusions on these things. Maybe we can amend those legal criteria. Like in the US, there are two countries I know, US and Singapore. That's what they call as altruistic donors. That means anybody can walk into the hospital and can donate, so to unknown people. So your friends can donate like that. But they have a very strict policies. The regulatory bodies are very strict. It's very transparent. There are chances of foul play in Singapore and US. It can happen, but it's very unusual, very rare. So as long as we don't reach up to that stage, I think what current legal provisions are made, and for a country like us and the system we have, I think, to me, honestly, and it's my personal opinion, it looks okay for now.
I think you also touched upon the supply and demand gap with this answer. Who can donate based on maybe their physicality, relation, age factors?
First thing is legal factors that I said. So the legal factors, the government, our legal committee, it's a well-defined criteria. So from close relative, father, mother, sister, in-laws, brothers, sisters. There is a fixed criteria, so I can't remember whole of those criteria. So anybody interested?
Immediate family members?
Yeah, besides immediate family members also, it has been expanded. So there's a wide spectrum of these defined relationship who can donate. So it's available in our hospitals, in any transplant centers they have, so anybody can go through that. So first they have to fit in that. So once the legal committee says that, okay, they are close relatives, then we take into medical considerations, medical factors. So usually, so it has, the first thing is the donor has to be an adult, that means more than 18 years of age. And we prefer for liver within 55 years. More than 55 years, we try to not to take their liver, because even the liver may look good, because as the age increases, the liver itself has become, older ones. So there is
the regenerative factor probably diminishes.
Yes, exactly. So as the age increases, our organs also get old. So the regenerative capacity, the function it is been performing may have been reduced. It's very difficult to predict that. So if you take an old liver, the function that graft liver, that the donated liver may not perform that we would expect. So the best is between 18 to 50 years. And we prefer to have a same blood group. So if it is A, we give it to A. If it is B, we give it to B. But very interesting is the blood group O is a universal donor. So that means O can give to anybody. So if you don't have, suppose A blood group doesn't have a A donor, so they can have from O blood groups. So it's you always, and if you are AB, you are lucky, you are a universal recipient. So you can receive from any of these blood groups. So that's very interesting. So after checking the blood groups, now next is we see if they have, we do CT, MRI of the liver. And the first thing we see is whether the donor can we divide the liver of that donor into two parts or not, how complex it is. Okay, so although liver seems to be one big organ, but the God has created in such a way that it can be divided into two parts. So there are two separate vessels going into the liver and coming out of the liver as well, to separate biliary systems as well. So because we have through the decades and centuries of learning, our ancestors, scientists, they have known that the liver can be divided into two parts safely. But in some patients, the anatomy is so complex, it's very difficult. It may, put the donor's life at risk. So we don't prefer those kind of donors. So once we feel safe that it can be divided, then we further analyze. Then what we see, if the donated part, how much the donor can donate, and if that donated part is adequate for the recipient or not. Okay, based on the weight, we calculate the weight. Normally we say that the donated liver should be 1% of the recipient's body weight, 1% of the recipient weight. So we can go up to 0.8 as well. That's a very safe limit. Now, if that donated liver is adequate for the recipient, then we check the remaining liver. After donating, how much liver is remnant in the donor, and we see if that remnant liver in the donor is adequate for the donor's safety or not. So usually what we say, a person can donate around 60-65% of his liver safely. So there should be at least 35% of the liver remaining with the donor itself. So if that is clear, if they fit in this criteria, then we move ahead. Okay, legally the donor is fine, the anatomically the donor is fine, the weight-wise the donated liver is okay for the recipient, the remnant liver is okay for the donor. Then we do his all head-to-toe physical examinations. We want to see if there are any other diseases that can contradict the donor going for major surgeries. Okay, like hypertension, diabetes, which are controlled. We usually prefer not to have these, but in case sometimes there is no good donor, then we also take these are relative contraindications. But we try to see other relative, like if the patient has severe cardiac disease, severe lung disease, if they have any past cancers or any other diseases which is prohibiting them to go for major surgery, then we avoid them. So once these are all clear, then we decide, okay, next now we can proceed for surgery and donations and the recipient surgery.
What does the success rate look like? And what causes rejection if it does?
Okay, so transplant for a donor, to speak with the donor, it's also a very complex surgery. Taking out someone's liver, taking half the liver from a body is a big surgery as well. But the good thing is we have been through it. We have undergone trainings, all team members for many years. And for other liver surgeries, other liver diseases, we have been doing similar kind of liver surgeries for many years. And so that knowledge and skill can be extrapolated in doing this donor surgery. So all the accessories, the instruments, all the supporting system we have has made this liver surgery very safe. So for donor, I think people say that standard is it has to be 99.9% safe. Nothing can be 100%, but it should be close to 100%. The donor surgery should be safe. And now the main issue is the recipients. Recipient surgery, the global standard we say is it has to be 90-95% success. That means if you do 100 patients, you may lose 2-3 patients on table or in an immediate post-operative period, and another 5-6 patients in next 1 year time. So many people put a standard as like 90%. If 90% of the patients transplanted can survive for 5 years, then that meets a global standards. So, and now for us that you're asking, I think it's too early for us to say, compare ourselves because it's just been 26. Although we started back in 2016, it's just been 26. But the good thing is we have also compared our data with the initial 2025 outcomes from other centers who also started like us. And it has been within the standard values. We have lost 3 patients due to our surgical procedures. They have developed complications. They could not stand the surgery.
This is out of how many patients?
26.
26.
Yeah, 3, and but otherwise all of patients they could come out of the surgery. But donor surgery is so far, touch wood, that's been 100% safe, and that's our very important concern. And we tried, as I said, the liver transplant, living donor liver transplant program depends upon the safety of of course, the safety of the recipients, but safety of the donor. If there is any issues with the donor, in many centers, even in developed nations, because there were problems with the donor, the whole program has been stopped.
Post-surgery, what factors would trigger or cause rejection?
Okay. So rejection is among one of the, like you pointed out, is one of the known complications. Any organ you put inside someone else's body, it can reject. That's a normal physiology. But the good thing is most of the rejections are minor rejections. That means the liver does not, the body does not accept it easily, so it can have minor reactions. The major rejections can also occur, but to prevent that, luckily we have many good drugs. So what we give as immunosuppressants. We start from the intraoperative period. As soon as we put that graft liver inside the body, we start giving those immunosuppressive agents. So because of these new drugs, very complex and very expensive drugs, the rejection rates now I can say is very minimal, very nominal. Those rejections which appear can we easily treat. So we had like in 26, 1 or 2 rejections we had, but almost all of them are treated. So most of these acute rejections that what develop immediate period, so it is very difficult to diagnose in the actually, we diagnose them based on the liver function test and we can treat them. In the long run also they can get rejections. But I would say, if you do 100, I think 2-3 patients will develop rejections. Now again, those patients also you can control those rejections.
When you say immunosuppressant agents, it sounds like the immune system of the patient will be compromised.
Yes.
Do you think there are side effects to these?
Yeah, of course, like you very nicely pointed out. So you're giving a high dose of these immunosuppressants, multiple drugs. We give at least 3 important drugs to suppress the immunity. So that's given to prevent the immunity, but definitely any drugs has side effect. So the main side effects of these immunosuppressant drugs in the immediate period and also in the long run is the body's immunity is suppressed, so they are at risk of developing infections. So even infections, minor infections, that's what we call as like for you and me, it could be a minor flu infections, minor viral infections, minor, we could say the bacterial infections, but in these patients, the same infections will be with a great severity. So they are very prone to develop infections, and so the infections can be very severe in comparison to a normal human being. So that's a risk, yes, that's what we explain in the immediate period, that even the minor infections can kill them, so they have to be very careful about these infections. So to prevent that also, we have mechanisms. So we put them on prophylactic antibiotics as well, drugs, to prevent those common infections that can occur in these individuals. So these days we're lucky to have those kind of antibiotics and other drugs that can prevent these infections.
And how long do the patients have to consume these medicines?
Okay, so immediately after transplant we start multiple drugs. So among them important one, as I said, as immunosuppressants, that various, and then all these various antibiotics to prevent infections. So first few months are very crucial, okay, in both rejection as well as infections. So in one hand you are preventing rejections, you are giving so many drugs. On the other hand, that immunosuppressants can cause poor immunity and then infections. So first few months there are a lot of medications, but gradually as the liver recovers, because the new liver has to take some time to completely start working. So as the new liver starts working normally, like 6 weeks, 8 times, then we slowly start decreasing the drug doses. Like in 2 to 3 months time, we decrease one of the immunosuppressant. Initially 3 we can reduce to 2, and then next 1 year to 12 years time, then again we can decrease another immunosuppressant. So in the long run, most of the people are in only one immunosuppressant. So, but they usually have to take it for lifelong. Lifelong, that immunosuppressant. Antibiotics also, first few months we give as a prophylaxis, and then after 3 months, 6 months, depending upon, we stop these antibiotics. But in between any issues, we start these antibiotics immediately. We don't wait for like in other individuals. So in a long run, it's usually 1 or 2 drugs. Mainly the immunosuppressants, single or 2 immunosuppressants, but they have to take that for lifelong. But so many other medications that we give, that slowly we can taper them and stop. That doesn't mean that all these drugs are continuing for lifelong. So it's not that difficult for people to manage. So we have seen patients like even our first transplant 2019 is 27 years now. He's fit and fine, just taking 1 or 2 these medications, and he's doing all well.
Now let's talk about accessibility. How accessible is liver transplant services in Nepal? How many surgeons, specialists do we have, and how costly is the procedure for common Nepali people? Also, I want to add on this, because we are a little pressed on time. Are there government schemes to support the financial aspect of liver transplant?
So the first question regarding the accessibility, it's very easily accessible now, although it's in the very highly specialized tertiary level hospital. In government, it's in TU Teaching Hospital. In Bhaktapur Human Organ Transplant Center, they had started in 2016, but I think that's been infrequent now there. But we are doing frequently in TU Teaching Hospital. And there are some private hospitals also, KIST, Medicity, and KMCs, although they are not doing so frequently. They are bringing Indian teams or teams from abroad and getting it done. But I proudly can say that in Teaching Hospital, it's our whole Nepalese team we have been doing on our own. So it's regular and it's accessible. But in contrast to what I'm saying is, not many people are being referred to us. We just discharged 4 weeks back 1 transplant, and now we don't have a list to perform transplant. So the reason why I come and give you these interviews is to tell people that you can come to our hospital and get transplanted here. We are providing this service, and it's regular. So now what you're trying to ask me is, it's only centered in capital city. It's not available outside. I think it's too early to talk like that, because this is a very highly complex procedure. It needs highly skilled manpower, which needs to be done in a tertiary level hospital. Maybe in future, then you can expand it. For many years to come, I think it has to be done in Kathmandu, in a very high tertiary level hospitals like teaching hospitals. There are many transplant, I think, who have taken license as a liver transplant surgeons, but it does not only depend upon the surgeon. You need a whole team. It's a big team you have to prepare to run this program. So at least in few of these hospitals, they are available. At least in our hospital, teaching hospital, we'll have complete set up these surgeons, physicians, anesthetists, the ICUs, the critical care, the IR specialists. We are a full team, and we can perform at least 2 to 3 transplants in a month. In a month, but we are not getting that many patients to do it. Regarding cost, this is very expensive, and I'll tell you, when we start counseling to the patients, first thing we ask is whether you can afford or not. If they can afford, that's the contraindications. So from 26 patients data, what we have seen is minimum of 25-26 lakhs to maximum between 35 to 40 lakhs of expenses from the evaluation operation to discharge. That the total cost is that much. It's not about the operating cost only. Actually, surgical cost is not. Surgical cost is around 5 lakhs only. But the cost of whole thing, from evaluation, investigations, drugs, post-operative management, everything, the cost is around between 25 to 35 lakhs. So it's all bared by the patients themselves. Till now, just so far, there has not been any support from anywhere. We have been lobbying for it. We have been requesting the government. And the kidney transplant, the cancer patients, they are receiving some subsidiary, some support from the government. For liver transplants, not yet. But I hope, I have been hearing that from coming fiscal year, I think they are making some provision to support the patients who need liver transplant as well. For now, there is no support.
And what good practices have you witnessed abroad in international practices of supporting patients financially? I
think developed nations, it's all taken care by the government. So the transplant procedures, they are very expensive ones. And so it's all, in Australia where I was staying, the patient doesn't have to pay anything. So it's all by government. In the US, I think everywhere in most of the developed nations, the whole transplant is taken care by the government themselves. So they reimburse, the hospital does the transplants, and all the cost is reimbursed by the government. I heard that in India, I don't think that's being done. In Sri Lanka, they have just started transplant a few years back, and I had a friend, we had a chat, and they said it's all been covered by the government. Yeah, covered by the governments. So for now, not yet been done. So if that would be done, then I think it will be very, not just easy for the patients themselves, I think it will be much helpful for us to run this program and sustain this program in the long run.
Very quickly, before we conclude, how many liver transplants have you performed in your career?
I've been a part of, like in Australia, around 150 transplants. That I didn't do it, but I was part of it. And besides that, I've been in US for a third time. So around 150, I would say I was a part. But I myself have performed now 26. Within that 26, 17 are the one that has been done independently by my leadership.
Okay. Which was the most complicated case that you witnessed?
I think all transplants are equally complicated. It's very difficult, Every transplants are nightmares.
Have you ever had to seek for external support?
Within these 17, not. So previous 9, we did it with the support. So far, for this next 17, we haven't asked for any help.
Do surgeons avoid operating their own relatives or close ones?
It's been said that you should not operate on your closed ones because there's a chances that you may get anxious during the surgery, So it's better not to operate. But to close, not very close, distance relative we have operated. But we wouldn't, agree or I wouldn't encourage anybody to operate on the very close and keen ones. So.
Top 5 things that one should do to avoid liver issues?
Avoid alcohol, avoid poor dietary habits, avoid not doing exercise, avoid unnecessary medications. What else?
Those are 4. I think it also applies to the don'ts as well.
Yeah.
What is one myth about liver that you'd want to bust?
Liver, that's what I was to say, is cadaveric donors. Not dead people can donate. This is a wrong misnomer. So it's a cadaverous means it's a brain death. It's not a dead people. So that's a big myth.
What single practical action would you ask every viewer to do right away to protect their liver?
Okay, I think good exercise. So make sure that you are not obese. If you have diabetes and hypertension, these are all can be treated and controlled. Take care of these things. Don't drink. Even if you drink, make sure that you nullify that effect with exercise and other good dietary habits. And if there are any issues, like if you're if you're obese or having any issues, any problems, then make sure you check your liver. They are very easy these days, easily available, labs and clinics, and where you can check your liver functions.
Dr. Bhandari, thank you so much for your time and your insights.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you too, as always, for staying with us. We hope today's conversation has added to our understanding of how and why to take care of our liver. We'll return with a new area of study in the next episode. Stay with us on NTV World. Until next time.
People simply observe and take pride in artists and their promotion of Malaysian culture internationally. But nobody cares how they struggle just to survive and maintain their sanity. The waves of stress that are constantly present and how it impedes their creative minds. The life of an artist is like an uneven curve. It never moves smoothly through a straight line. As an artist herself, Shima tries to make her life easy and its journey smooth sailing in a straight line. But this does not happen. After graduating with a bachelor's degree in art and design with a major in pottery and ceramics in 1982, Shima started her own business. She did not only do batik paintings on fabric and other soft materials, but also took part in painting, designing and production of batik garments. All these activities did not make her happy and she could not sustain herself financially. Then she decided to concentrate on paintings.
Things that you can comfort with, you can live with it. Because for the beginners, they have to find things and it's not easy to get all the materials. So first, you have to survive. Second stage, after you survive, you want to find yourself. There's a long way until that you become famous because of something in the painting itself. So it's comfort because it comes like it's not a day or a month or a year. It's going to be continued maybe until you die.
Shima has been concentrating her creative works on paintings for nearly 2 decades. Her artworks mainly reflect traditional houses as imagery. She wants to spill the colors of her childhood experiences onto the canvas consciously.
This is from the experience before that you have. You see things, you see something that inspired you, that is the one that comfortable with, so that you just go on with that subject. Like a house is something that we experienced before. We live in those kind of houses, traditional, that which is in our childhood. We grown up there, and it's in the memory because we don't have it anymore.
Within the imagery of traditional houses, Shima does not only want to have nostalgic gratification, but also represent Malaysian multiculturalism in her paintings.
If you are Malay, there was the influences in the houses. If you are Indian, there were some images that shows. So this is what all about Malaysian multicultural. We have huge things to explore. It's something about our country. It's something about Malaysia in a way of you create it.
Devotion, patience, tolerance, commitment and inherent creative capacity are the fundamental qualities of an artist. Being an artist, Shima always feels the challenges of creating a new painting.
I think the challenge is the artist itself. How they going to create good work, good artwork that you can show that to the public. That is the most challenging, because whether the public can accept it or not, and you can think whether you can continue with this career or not.
Once the painting is completed, Shima has a happy moment. It is a kind of great winning.
Happy moment, you've been rewarded. You won something. You've been, like I said, rewarded means whether you winning some contest or you've been rewarded because of your artwork being chosen for some reason of, your painting was in that certain place, which is people are looking up at it.
Being an artist is not always good. On many occasions, Shima has had very bad experiences within her society.
At the first step, you've been ignored because they say that your artwork is not going anywhere. It's very disappointed.
Like Shima, 21 other artists have been working in the artist colony. The colony is a traditional village-based art center where artists from different fields and expertise do their works. There are 11 government-subsidized wakafs, open-air wooden shelters built for artists within the craft complex in Kuala Lumpur. In the village, artists do not only create artworks, but also conduct various educational activities, such as teaching, training, and observational programs.
Yeah, that's how you get the color, okay? Wherever you do, you must.
Just a comment on my part.
Every artist working in this village has their own style and creativity. They have been working with different mediums, forms, and compositions. Their different artistic talents create their distinct identity. However, they have a common practice of promoting the Malaysian way of living and culture.
I'm the one who did the painting about art, Malaysian naive art, to promote Malaysia, especially when the tourists come over here, what they can bring back to visit Malaysia while they are on tourism. So to present my country, so they know what is Malaysia they have.
My subject is more to flora and fauna, and this is, as you can see here, this is more to semi-abstract artwork, and I'm really concentrate on the texture series, and this is considered my latest series.
It's my painting normally my environment. Normally my family like this. This my family, my son, my daughter look together. The title is together. That's mean well, I create a watercolor on a theme of the mangrove swamps of Malaysia. I travel from north to south just to record all the pictures, all the picturesque view of the mangrove. And back at home, I'll record it on my paper with watercolor.
A lot of Malaysian artists, they use a lot of images from surrounding, like historical buildings, like the traditional costume, something like that. So I think that show that Malaysian art scene, they have their own style.
Artists have their own particular perspectives and viewpoints to observe the surroundings and lives. They are born with certain natural gifts and talents. They also develop exceptionally critical senses. They do recreation of the reality onto canvases. Their artworks are like mirrors that reflect different dimensions of local reality. The tourists, however, prefer local motifs in the artworks.
It's quite interesting to see some modern art. This complex is very interesting because there's a lot of different types of art and craft.
This is very different, and I particularly like her use of colours in the repeated motifs that she's got on display here.
I better like the Malaysian art because this one is very colourful and sketch was very beautiful.
Although the artists have been contributing a lot to promote the Malaysian culture internationally, they are under the wave of extreme stress. They have been struggling with hard times just to survive.
not enough income to survive, to get the sourcing, like selling the painting, to make you alive. That is the most important in their mind. Besides, they want to produce a good work.
Audience has to have to appreciate Malaysian art more.
Di Malaysia ni dari segi pasaran mungkin belum luas.
To survive as an artist is quite tough at the moment now. It depends on the how you tackle the customer and how they like it your painting or not. That is the only way.
Struggle a lot to keep on survive and keep on doing your work, because many artists you can find they do halfway.
The major buyers of Malaysian artworks are foreign visitors. However, due to severe global economic recession, the official statistics of the Malaysian Tourism Ministry show that the inflow of foreign tourists are very unpredictable. This has immensely affected the sale of artwork. Artists have no choice but to bear the pain.
We have to think about to promote Malaysian art. Malaysian artists have to try to find the funding, so and from that way they can promote themselves. If we want to ask government to help us, in that way also can, but the government have a lot of things to think about, so artists should think their own way. I think like Malaysian government have to must start to collect artwork from the artists, like their government department. They have a lot of department. They have to start to buy artwork.
Artists like Shima are struggling against a dire situation to overcome. After investing their golden age in the field, artists are continuously creating their arts and seeking the support from society. Shima has taken these circumstances as a school of life. She has a strong commitment and beautiful dreams to be the best artist possible.
You have to sell the painting to survive, to get the money to buy food or to pay any bills. But then when that problem is solved, or you get a way to solve the problem, I think it's going to be, you learn like in a school, but this is not a formal school. It's like a life school. I want to create something of your own brand, of your own mark in your country. You are not being comparing with other artists. That is the most that most artists wanted. But it's not going to be happen in one day.
Artists and artworks are an integral part of any society. Despite the extreme stress on their minds, they document the contemporary history of social reality. They also make many significant contributions to social transformation, critiquing evil elements and innovating new ideas. The life of an artist is never smooth like a straight line. However, one cannot imagine life without art.
When it's a sunny day and the rain is pouring down, when it's a sunny day and the rain is pouring down, the fox's fiance puts on her wedding gown. The fox's fiance puts on her wedding gown. When it's a sunny day and the rain is pouring down, when it's a sunny day and the rain is pouring down, it's time for the fox to tie all his locks. It's time for the fox to tie all his locks. And get hitched with Miss Fox, and get hitched with Miss Fox.
at least once in your life. Votekosi and Trisuli river rafting. Rafting has lately been gaining popularity among tourists. The adventure sport, which previously was popular only among foreigners, is now drawing the local tourists as well. Trisuli and Votekosi rivers that are close to Kathmandu are two popular destinations for rafting in Bagmati province. Let us first explore Votekosi. Whitewater rafting at Votekosi river is included among the 10 best adventure destinations for rafting in the world. Votekosi, which is well facilitated with food and accommodation, can be a great destination for rafting and other adventure sports. Rafting at Trisuli river is popular among domestic tourists, as the location can be reached in an hour from Kathmandu. This is where most tourists go for rafting in Nepal. Rafting packages of Votekosi and Trisuli are appropriate for those who want to spend some good time for a few days.
A reflection of biodiversity along with nature and culture. A view of the silver-like shining mountain range right before your eyes. A chronicle of the rituals and traditions of Kirati people from creation to civilization and the present day. A unique tourist trail in Nepal filled with natural beauty, the Mundum Trail. Mundum Trail is a uniquely identified trekking route in Nepal filled with natural beauty. The trail is an excellent tourist destination for trekkers who want to enjoy the culture and traditions of various ethnic groups while observing natural beauty. The Mundum Trail was identified as a new trekking route with the aim of promoting tourism in Khotang, Bhojpur, Sangkhwa Sabha and Solukhumbu regions of eastern Nepal. The specialty of the Mundum Trail is trekking while observing the tall mountain ranges, high hills and beautiful views of the flat plains of Tarai. Since it is connected to the culture of the Kirati people, this trail is named after the Mundum rites of Kirat Rais. Various structures reflecting the culture and traditions of the Kirat Rais built around the trail. Large grassy meadows and yaks and sheep herds raised by local herdsmen highlight the speciality of the trek. Dishes reflecting the identity of ethnic groups like Kirat Rai, Sherpa, Tamang and others, local organic food produced by herdsmen, various types of vegetation and precious herbs can be found during the Mundum trek. The trail is a total of 107 kilometers long. Both domestic and international visitors say the rivers originating from Mahabharat mountain range, forests covered in rhododendrons, rare and endangered wildlife and plants, and animal husbandry by hard-working farmers captivates their hearts. The Mundum Trail, where one can trek through the hills with the world's highest peak, Mount Everest, at its head, is a precious gift from nature. It's a trek where one can escape the heat of the Tarai, enjoy natural beauty, reveling in the sweet sounds of birds and connecting with endangered plants, making the experience all unique. As there is heavy snowfall in winter, the number of tourists trekking and playing in the snow along the Mundum Trail witnesses a surge every season. The Mundum Trail is connected to religion, culture, rituals and lifestyle of entire Kirat community. Mundum itself means the Kirat culture, rituals and the daily life of Kirati people or Kirat knowledge. And the concept of Mundum Trail is also about introducing the culture, lifestyle and history of the Kirati people to the world, familiarizing them with the community. The journey along the trail, which spreads through uphills and downhills, offers close-up views of more than 24 beautiful mountain ranges. That includes Nuptse, Everest, Lhotse, Makalu, Kanchenjunga and Kumbhakarna. They all delight every traveler. The Mundum trek starts from Dawa Bhanjang in Diktel, Sakaila Rural Municipality of Khotang, and Bhojpur Bazar in Bhojpur. Most tourists start their journey on this trail from Chakhewa Bhanjang in Temki Moying Rural Municipality, Bhojpur. The trek starting from Chakhewa Bhanjang is a gift of biodiversity, culture and nature. The trail is also a tourist area listed among the 100 must-visit destinations selected by the government of Nepal. Temke Dada is an excellent tourist destination near the starting point of the Mundum Trail. It lies on the border of Bhojpur and Khotang. It is located at an altitude of about 3,032 meters above sea level and is a flat plateau on top of a single hill. The history of Temke Dada is also linked to Kirati civilization. Temke Dada is a habitat for various species of trees like jamb, rhododendron and chimal, as well as endangered wildlife such as red panda, ghorol and thar. Various places in Koshi province can be clearly seen from Temke Dada. From here, one can have a panoramic view of dozens of mountain ranges, including the world's highest peak, Mount Everest, Makalu, Kanchenjunga and Gauri Shankar. Apart from that, from Temke Dada, one can watch the sunrise and sunset. And when the weather is clear, one can even see the cities of Sikkim, Darjeeling, Kalimpong, Siliguri in India and cities in Bhutan. The Kirati people perform special worship on full moons of Baisakh. In this area, precious herbs, locally called chiraito, majito, thulo okhti, pakhanbed, nagbeli, ban karela, muse karela and satua are found in abundance. Another major attraction of Temke Dada is the rhododendron. During blooming season, the forest in this area becomes vibrant red with fully bloomed flowers. After a hike and exploration of Temke Hill, surrounded by beautiful nature, one reaches Dhotre Deorali in about 6 hours. During the journey to Dhotre, trekkers enjoy nature's embrace, marvel at various rock formations and relish the trek while connecting with the high hills. At Dhotre Deorali, there are arrangements for food and lodging for tourists. Leaving Dhotre and moving forward on the trek, various structures have been built targeting the culture and traditions of Kirati people to attract tourists. The Mundum Trail's construction began with a 35% investment from Koshi provincial government, 35% from Swiss government and 30% from the local government. Along this entire trail, rest stops, drinking water taps and stone platforms have been built for tourists. 15 ponds in the shape of a chindo, which is a traditional Rai vessel reflecting Kirat Rai culture, have also been constructed. This is a place where shamans have walked, a place of tantric power and an extremely scenic area. Mundum is the name of a Kirat scripture. The trail is named after this sacred name. This trail, which integrates various aspects of Kirati civilization, culture, history and life from Silichung to Mayung and then to Temke, and from Temke to Kualung and Tuachung, proceeds along the ridge of Mahabharat mountain range. Another special beauty of the Mundum Trail is Haas Pokari. Located at an altitude of 3,333 meters above sea level, Haas Pokari is a special destination that should not be missed during the trek. At the edge of Haas Pokari, a statue of Sumnima and Paruhang has been erected. According to Kirat Mundum, Sumnima and Paruhang are the creators of this universe. The gentle fragrance of various species of flowers blooming in the grassy meadows captivates every tourist visiting Haas Pokari. The rhododendrons that bloom in season in the Haas Pokari area make one feel like staying in the vicinity of the pond forever. During their journey to Haas Pokari, travelers can observe at least 16 species of rhododendrons that bloom during the spring season. Another important destination of the Mundum Trail is Mayung Dada. Located in Temki Mayung Rural Municipality of Bhojpur, Mayung Dada is a beautiful place with tourism potential. The journey to Mayung Dada, which is at an altitude of about 3,600 meters above sea level, takes place through the middle of a very smooth meadow. During this journey, any tourist with the melodious sound of music wishes to be immersed in the glory of beautiful nature, even if for a short while. The Mayung area is also a special observation point for horses. The attraction of horses roaming freely under the open sky is another unmissable feature of Mayung Dada. The Mayung area, which is connected to the neighboring district of Khotang, has a balanced climate, not as cold as the Himalayas nor as hot as the Tarai. The Mayung area is also a habitat for the globally endangered red panda. During the Mayung journey, adorned with biodiversity and nature, one can enjoy the rhododendrons that bloom vibrantly across the hillsides in the spring. One can sit on various mystical hills and move forward with the cool breeze, mountain views, and by cherishing the natural beauty in their heart and soul. The blooming chap, rhododendron and sunakhari flowers in the months of Falgun, Chaitra and Baisakh captivate the hearts of tourists. The ever-changing weather and the view of the mountain range right before the eyes can make one feel a heavenly bliss on earth when one steps on Mayung Dada. From Mayung Dada, most of the hilly districts of eastern Nepal as well as the high hill plains and villages of Nepal and India look as if they are in the palm of one's hand, making one want to keep watching. When the crimson rays of early morning sun touch the mountains on the other side, the joy of kissing the heights is immeasurable. From Mayung Dada, one can also view more than 24 beautiful Himalayan peaks. This includes Charbate, Mera Peak, Nuptse, Everest, Lhotse, Lhotse Sar, Makalu, Kanchenjunga and Kumbhakarna. Travelers say is less tiring and also does not give one altitude sickness. The trail located in the Mayung region is considered excellent, given the Laliguras Trail of the TMJ region or the Tinjuri, Milke, Jaljale area and the Khapta Trail of the west. On the Mundum trek, after passing through Chakhewa Bhanjang, Mayung Dada, Haas Pokari, Satobato, Laure Bhir, Rawathap, and Salpa Bhanjang, on the fourth day of the journey, one reaches the famous pilgrimage site Salpa Pokari. Salpa Pokari is situated at an altitude of 3,400 meters above sea level and is considered by the Kirati people as their ancestral place of origin. Kirati people hold a belief that one must visit Salpa Pokari at least once in their lifetime. Hence, during Udholi and Ubholi full moons, many pilgrims visit Salpa Pokari. a place filled with religious faith and natural beauty. Salpa Pokhari, known as the confluence of 4 districts, Khotang, Solukhumbu, Bhojpur and Sankhua Sabha, is a place of natural beauty. Salpa Pokhari is located in Dobhani village of Salpa Silichung rural municipality in Bhojpur. It can be reached via the Mundum Trail, passing through Dikdale in Khotang, Lal Kharka and Moyung Dada. However, there are other routes to reach Salpa Pokhari as well. It is said that Tenzing Norgay Sherpa and Edmund Hillary used the route through Salpa Pokhari during their first ascent of Mount Everest. Salpa Pokhari is also a multi-religious center of faith, as apart from Kiratis, various ethnic groups, including Hindus and Buddhists, hold fairs at this place 4 times a year. There is a religious belief that people who are born unable to speak can start speaking after being dipped in the waters of this pond, and childless couples are blessed with children after visiting Salpa Pokhari. Silichung Dada with Salpa Pokhari as its base camp is an important destination for tourists trekking the Mundum Trail. Tourists who reach Salpa often make a return trip to the summit of Silichung Dada, which stands at an altitude of 4,100 meters. Specially considered a significant center of religious faith for the Kirati people, from the Silichung Peak one can easily view the Himalayan range as well as the flat plains of the Tarai. From Silichung, 6 Himalayan peaks including Everest, Makalu, Kanchenjunga, Kumbhakarna and Mera Peak can be seen right before one's eyes. The Salpa Silichung Peak, the highest point in the religiously and touristically significant district of Bhojpur, is established as the tallest among Tenke Dada and Moyung Dada. There is a popular belief that wishes are fulfilled after visiting and offering prayers at the peak of Silichung. Silichung Peak is located on the border of Bhojpur and Sankhwa Sabha districts. It is useful not only for anchoring one's religious faith, but also for savoring the unique blend of nature and culture. From the peak of Silichung, one can directly see Salpa Pokhari to the south and the villages of Solukhumbu, Sankhwa Sabha and Bhojpur. The valley and plains formed by the Arun River, which flows through Bhojpur and Sankhwa Sabha, can be easily viewed from this area. From Silichung, one can also enjoy panoramic views of the sunrise and sunset. At sunrise, a captivating view of mist in the Arun Valley can be seen from this spot. When the weather is clear, climbing Silichung Peak brings a feeling of heavenly bliss. The Silichung area is as naturally beautiful as it is culturally significant. In recent times, Kirat, Hindu and Buddhist followers have come to regard Silichung Peak as a common pilgrimage site. A large number of shamans gather here during the full moons of Bhadra, Kartik and Baisakh. Shamans in particular ascend Silichung to gain power and knowledge. The fragrance of the extremely aromatic bhairung, sunpati and other fragrant herbs and flowers found around Silichung makes the stay there even more pleasant. There is a Mundum myth that Kirati people gain power from this area, envisioning it as the place where the world was created, starting from the hearth, the main pillar, the main door, the eaves, the flower garden, the resting place, and the final water source, while praying to their ancestors for divine power. Upon reaching this point, the Mundum trek can be considered complete for the time being. The Mundum Trail is an excellent destination for tourists who want to get close to the Himalayas and enjoy their beauty. The hundreds of types of flowers and birds seen during the Mundum trek make the journey even more interesting. The path is completely covered with the national flower rhododendron in various colors. Being a confluence of nature, culture, and Kirati civilization, tourists get to taste a sweet flavor during the Mundum trek. People of all age groups can undertake this trek. On both sides of the trail, the language, religion, rituals, and culture, as well as the lifestyle of 10 different Kirati-speaking Rai groups are vibrant. This region contains descriptions of the Kirati people from their creation to their civilization, their migration, various activities and rituals and traditions from birth to death. During this journey, one can truly feel a spiritual connection with their ancestors and with those who have passed. Locals have added new dimensions of tourism to the Mundum Trail. Along with homestays, one can also experience goat stays, which is staying in a herder's shed during the Mundum trek. Local herders warmly welcome the trekkers. This trail of indigenous civilization has recently emerged in the tourism world as a top cultural destination. Therefore, developing the Mundum Trail, an exceptional confluence of nature and culture, into a model destination for recreation and study for both domestic and international visitors has become a pressing priority.
Dancing in the beats of Khaijari, these tireless young feet will not stop until the next morning. As every dawn brings along a dusk, and a hello has to end in a farewell note, it was time for us to say goodbye to Ramkot. The beat of the Madal and Khaijari constantly tried to hold us back even until we reached the faraway trails. It was hard to say goodbye when our heart wanted to stay, but then we had to move on.
Music, dance, food, art and devotion are the lifeblood of Newar culture, an ancient civilization rooted in the Kathmandu Valley of Nepal. With lively festivals nearly every fortnight, the Newars celebrate life through a rich tapestry of traditions known as Jatra. Cabinet scraps 3% equity tax on private education and health services, also approves relief measures for loan shark victims and international airlines. Nepali Congress marks BP Koirala's death anniversary amid growing party division. Separate tributes expose deepening disputes over the party's future. Nepal prepares for one of its hottest years in 3 decades. Experts urge impact-based forecast to reduce the risk of extreme heat. United States carries out an 11th straight night of strikes in Iran. Attacks come amid escalating tensions over security in the Strait of Hormuz. Student-led protests intensify across India. Opposition parties join calls for accountability and education reform. And Nepal suffers a narrow defeat to Kazakhstan in its opening match of the Central Asian Volleyball Association Championship in Islamabad. Good evening. Welcome to NTV World News Hour. I'm Sweksha Rajak and we are coming to you up from Kathmandu from 2200 hours Nepal time. Now the news in details. The government has endorsed the agreement it had made with loan sharking victims and decided to render all forged documents relating to loan sharking illegal. The meeting of the Council of Ministers held in Singadara today also decided to form a judicial probe committee on self-immolation of Ganesh Nepali. The committee will be coordinated by former judge at High Court Keshav Prasad Bastola, according to government spokesperson and Minister for Education and Sports, Sashmit Pokhrel. As per government decision, Judge at Tulsipur High Court Basudevacharya will be assigned as the chairman of the special court, while Judge at Sukhet High Court Dipendra Adhikari as the chairman of Labour Court. Sailesh Raj Goar has been appointed as an administrator of Guthi Sansthan. Minister Pokhrel further informed media that the international flights would be provided the parking, landing and navigation for free of cost, while the ground handling at 50% concession at the regional international airports Pokhara and Bhairava.
मिटर ब्याजबाट प्रभावित नागरिकको माग सम्बोधन गर्ने सम्बन्धमा गठित समिति र मिटर ब्याजबाट विरुद्ध किसान मजदुर आन्दोलनका प्रतिनिधि बीच मिति 2083-41 मा भएको सम्झौता अनुमोदन गर्ने, सम्झौतामा उल्लेख भए बमोजिम मिटर ब्याजसँग सम्बन्धित फर्जी लिखतहरू आजकै मितिबाट अवैध घोषणा गर्ने, आर्थिक ऐन 2083 को दफा 18 को उपदफा 1 बमोजिम शिक्षा समता शुल्क र स्वास्थ्य समता शुल्क पूर्ण रूपमा छोड दिने। आजबाट मन्त्री परिषदमा औपचारिक रूपमा यो निर्णय भइसकेपछि आजबाट कुनै पनि अस्पतालले अथवा विद्यालयले 3% शुल्क लिन मिल्दैन।
The decision, to be effective till mid-September 2028, is aimed at international flights. Moreover, the cabinet meeting scrapped the equity tax on education and health as per Section 18(1) of the Finance Act 2083. Nepal's main opposition, Nepali Congress, marked the 44th death anniversary of its founding leader, BP Koirala, on Wednesday. But the occasion also exposed deep divisions within the party as rival fractions held separate memorial programs instead of a unified tribute. While both sides claimed to uphold BP Koirala's ideals of democracy and unity, they continued blaming each other for weakening the party. The split was visible as party president Gagan Kumar Thapa led one event in Lalitpur, while senior leaders from the opposing faction gathered separately in Kathmandu. With internal disputes growing, questions remain over the future direction of Nepal's oldest democratic party. We'll dive deeper into this in our cover story later in the bulletin. Now, from Europe to Asia, extreme heat is turning into a growing global crisis. With record temperatures, rising deaths and widespread disruptions, scientists estimate thousands of people died during recent heat waves in Europe. While countries across Asia are also facing dangerous temperature levels, Nepal is preparing for the impact of rising heat, with experts warning of risks to public health, agriculture, livestock and daily life. The Department of Hydrology and Meteorology says impact-based forecasting and early warnings will be crucial to reduce health-related damage and help communities prepare. We'll have a closer look on this in our Issue of the Day segment later in the bulletin. Now, US President Donald Trump has warned that the United States would target Iranian infrastructure if Iranian forces attack ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Trump said possible targets could include bridges and power plants near Tehran, following continued military exchanges between the two countries. The warning comes as the U.S. carries out an 11th consecutive night of strikes on Iran Iranian military sites, including maritime facilities, drone storage areas and logistics centers. Iran has warned against attacks on its nuclear facilities and threatened retaliation. The escalating tensions have affected global energy markets, with oil prices rising as concerns grow over security in one of the world's most important shipping routes. Student-led examination scandals and the protests they are doing spreading across India, with thousands gathering in New Delhi to demand accountability and reforms. The movement, led by the social media-driven Cockroach Janata Party, has become a major challenge for Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government. Protesters are demanding the resignation of Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan over alleged examination irregularities, including a medical entrance exam paper leak that affected millions of students. Opposition leaders, including Congress leader Rahul Gandhi, have backed the demonstration and criticized the government's response to the protest. The government says it is committed to reforms and addressing students' concern as demonstrations continue in several major cities across the country. Nepal has suffered a narrow defeat to Kazakhstan in its opening match of the Central Asian Volleyball Association Championship in Islamabad. After losing the first two sets, Nepal produced a spirited comeback by winning the third set 34-32 before taking the 4-2 level of the match. However, Kazakhstan held on its deciding fifth set to seal a 3-2 victory. Despite the loss, Nepal's fighting performance kept the contest alive until the final set in an encouraging start to the tournament. Nepal will next face Sri Lanka on Thursday, followed by matches against host Pakistan, Bangladesh and Uzbekistan in the remaining group stage fixtures. A deadly heat wave is sweeping across the world, claiming lives and exposing the growing threat of extreme temperatures. As countries struggle to cope with rising heat, Nepal too is preparing for the possibility of its hottest years in 3 decades. After the break, in our Issue of the Day segment, we look at how impact-based forecasting and early preparedness can help protect people, agriculture and livestock from extreme heat. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World News Hour, and it's time for Issue of the Day. From crowded cities to remote villages, extreme heat is becoming a growing threat worldwide, with rising temperatures linked to thousands of deaths and worsening climate risk. Sarah Sapsanamarai reports.
From Europe to Asia, 2026 is becoming another year of record-breaking heat. Western Europe recorded its hottest June on record as exceptionally warm land and sea temperatures fueled prolonged heat waves.
Very hot, very, very hot. It's not even lunchtime yet and we're going back to the hotels for the pool just to cool down. It's very hot. We've certainly felt it back home in Wales as well. We've had a heat wave recently and we're not used to it. Luckily here you've got aircon and stuff, you're more equipped for it. But no, yeah, certainly it's going to come more often, yeah.
Nous avons vécu ça à Paris aussi, la canicule qui vient de passer, donc pendant une semaine c'était très dur, il faisait très chaud tout le temps. mais surtout la nuit, c'est dur pour dormir.
The human toll has been severe. Scientists estimate that more than 10,000 people died during Europe's late June and early July heat wave alone. Study estimates around 6,800 deaths in Germany, 2,700 in the United Kingdom, nearly 2,000 in France, and about 900 in Spain, with older adults among the most vulnerable.
These heat waves are no longer just fun. They're quite frightening, and you can easily calculate the damage. You can calculate the excess deaths. In Europe, they're already doing that, but in 2023, there were about 3,000 excess deaths during the heat wave. And you can identify, miscarriages, early pregnancies, more epilepsy, more kidney failure. So we've got figures for this. We know what happens, and I think I think it's clear that things have to be put in place. As I say,
the crisis has triggered official responses worldwide. More than 20 countries across Europe and Asia have issued heat alerts, heat health warnings, or emergency advisories as authorities attempt to protect populations from dangerous temperatures. In Japan, authorities issued heat stroke alerts across 42 of the country's 47 prefectures after temperatures exceeded 40 degrees Celsius, while thousands of people were hospitalized with heat-related illnesses.
政府としましては、学校の体育館等へのエアコン設置支援であるとか、クーリングシェルターの活用促進、また働く方の現場における休息場所の整備や健康管理の徹底に加えて、室内の温度に応じてエアコンを自動起動するシステムなどの新しい技術の活用に取り組んでいるところです。
Across India and Pakistan, temperatures have climbed above 45 degrees Celsius. Kazakhstan has recorded highs of up to 40 degrees Celsius, breaking historical records. The impacts extend far beyond health. Extreme heat is placing heavy pressure on electricity grids as demand for cooling rises. Roads and railways are being damaged, drought is threatening agriculture, and schools, sports programs, and outdoor workers are changing schedules to avoid the hottest hours. The economic burden is also increasing. Researches show India's outdoor workers lost up to 9% of their income due to extreme heat, showing how rising temperatures are becoming a threat to livelihoods. The World Health Organization says extreme heat is among the world's deadliest weather hazards, increasing risk of heat stroke, cardiovascular disease, and respiratory illness. Scientists say these increasingly intense heat waves are consistent with a warming climate, driven primarily by human-caused greenhouse gas emissions. The World Health Organization estimates around 489,000 people die from heat every year worldwide. Experts warn that without stronger adaptation and climate action, deadly heat events will become more frequent and severe. Sarah Sapsanama for NTV World, Kathmandu.
Coping up with extreme heat, one of the major environmental concerns around the world. Not only the public, even the government agencies are adopting new measures, with prediction of Nepal experiencing highest temperatures in 3 decades this year. The Department of Hydrology and Meteorology, DHM, has warned the public to be well prepared. Impact-based forecasting is what the experts have outlined as a more effective way to keep not only the public but also the livestock and crops safer from extreme heat. Sabika Shrestha along with Kamala Arial brings more.
Climate change affecting our daily life, including the environment and weather, is no more a secret. While countries are reporting record high temperatures, Nepal is also bearing gamut of problems. Experts have started discussing the possible impact of rising temperatures, heat waves, and their potential impact on public health, agriculture, water resources, and daily life. The experts, who are fearing worse days ahead, have advised wearing loose-fitting and light-colored clothing, use umbrellas, hats, or sunglasses when going outdoors. Also keep indoor spaces cool and well ventilated and avoiding leaving home unless absolutely necessary to avoid the extreme heat. To reduce the impact on agriculture, experts recommended cultivating heat-tolerant crops and crop varieties, providing shade for plants, using organic manure to improve soil health, and developing water conservation and storage systems. For the livestock sector, they suggested ensuring animals have access to sufficient drinking water, cool and shaded areas, and facilities such as ponds or water baths to help them cope with the heat. Participants also stressed the importance of regularly following weather forecasts and officials' warnings and planning agriculture activities accordingly to minimize losses caused by high temperatures and heat waves. The Department of Hydrology and Meteorology that organized the program is also adopting new measures to forecast and disseminate information in advance. It is carrying out risk and hazard assessments, identifying and classifying potential impacts, preparing weather forecasts, determining the severity of expected impacts, issuing warnings, and disseminating timely information. The department further explained that its impact-based forecasting system not only predicts weather conditions but also assesses their likely effects on people's lives, enabling relevant agencies to make necessary preparations in advance.
जल तथा मौसम विज्ञान विभागले चाहिँ 30 वर्षको चाहिँ औसतलाई हेरेर चाहिँ यसपालि चाहिँ औसतभन्दा बढी हो कि कम हो कि भनेर भन्छौं। हरेक केन्द्रहरू अनुसार हरेक ठाउँ अनुसार चाहिँ केन्द्रहरू फरक फरक छन् र कुन ठाउँको औसत कति हो भनेर फेरि तपाईहरुले जल तथा मौसम विज्ञान विभागको वेबसाइटमा पनि ती सूचनाहरू अद्यावधिक हुन्छ हेर्न चाहिँ सक्नुहुन्छ। त्यो चाहिँ हरेक ठाउँको चाहिँ फरक फरक हुन्छ र अब अहिले चाहिँ विश्वका चाहिँ धेरै ताता वर्षहरू मध्ये चाहिँ यो पछिल्ला दशकमा नै अत्याधिक तातो वर्षहरू भएको छ के रेकर्डहरूले गर्दाखेरि।
The workshop is expected to strengthen coordination among stakeholder agencies involved in managing heat-related disasters, improve the effectiveness of early warning systems, and contribute to reducing damage caused by extreme heat. With camera person Pradyumna Dhungel, Sabika Shrestha, NTV World.
And in this context, in our public health segment today, we have asked how can one stay safe from extreme heat? Let's have a look.
घामबाट जोगिनु पर्यो एउटा चाहिँ भन्नाले त्यो कार्यस्थल अथवा तपाईं बिहानमा शिफ्ट गरेर हुन्छ कि अथवा बेलुकामा हामीले शिफ्ट गरेर हुन्छ हैन त्यो चरम गर्मीलाई चाहिँ छल्नु पर्यो एउटा चाहिँ। अनि अर्को भनेको चाहिँ हामीले आफ्नो चाहिँ जुन पानीको स्रोत छ पानीको स्रोतलाई हामीले सदुपयोग गर्नु पर्यो। पानीको स्रोतलाई हामी चाहिँ अब नजिकको तपाईको कुवा अथवा पोखरी चाहिँ पनि सुक्खा हुन सक्ने सम्भावना भएको हुनाले त्यो चाहिँ पालिका अथवा तपाईको चाहिँ वार्डले त्यो पहिचान गरेर त्यसमा चाहिँ किफायती रूपमा त्यसलाई प्रयोग गर्नु पर्यो हैन। अनि त्यसपछि यसको चाहिँ अब हेल्थ सेक्टरमा हुने असरको बारेमा चाहिँ हामी सुसूचित हुनु पर्यो।
मौसम अनुकूलको बिउहरू त्यो चाहिँ वितरणमा जोड दिन पर्यो स्थानीय सरकार र प्रदेश सरकार र संघ सरकारले। त्यसपछि विद्यालयहरूको चाहिँ अब स्ट्रक्चरहरू त्यो चाहिँ सुधार गरिदिन पर्यो। त्यो भएको टिन र त्यो जस्ताको त्यो टहराले चाहिँ अबको अवस्थाले चाहिँ काम गर्दैन भन्ने लाग्छ।
धेरै तापक्रम बढेको हुनाले मान्छेमा अब तनावहरू पनि बढिरहेको हुन्छ। मानसिक रूपले उहाँ चाहिँ अब अलिकति टेम्परेचर हाई भएको हुनाले रिसहरू बढ्न सक्ने हैन मानसिक तनावहरू हुन सक्ने अनि त्यसपछि कतिलाई मुटुको समस्याहरू हुन सक्ने अनि त्यस्तै गरिकन अर्को चाहिँ उहाँलाई त्यो हिट स्ट्रोक भएर हैन मूर्छाहरू पर्न सक्ने त्योहरुबाट चाहिँ उहाँहरू बसिनु पर्यो। त्यस्तो भयो भने तुरुन्तै हामीले आफ्नो स्वास्थ्य केन्द्रमा लानु पर्यो छारीमा राख्नु पर्यो। अब चिसो हुने खानेकुराहरू हैन जस्तो अब अलि जल के भन्छ पानी अलि बढी प्रयोग गर्नु पर्यो।
यस्तो अवस्थामा चाहिँ हामीले खेतबारीमा जाने समयलाई पनि विचार गर्नुपर्छ। जुन दिनमा चाहिँ एकदम धेरै घाम लाग्छ र विशेष गरी तराईको क्षेत्रहरूमा हुनुहुन्छ भने यहाँहरूले दिउँसोको समय विशेष गरी 11 बजेदेखि 4 बजेको समयमा चाहिँ सकेसम्म खेतबारीमा बाहिर ननिस्कने गर्दाखेरि यो तापलहरबाट तातोबाट बच्न सकिन्छ। त्यस्तै गरी पशुवस्तुलाई प्रशस्त मात्रामा पानी खुवाउने र सम्भव हुन्छ भने आहाल बसाउने भैँसीहरूलाई चाहिँ आहाल बसाउनु चाहिँ उपयुक्त हुन्छ।
पहिलो त जल तथा मौसम विज्ञान विभागले दिएको सूचनालाई चाहिँ समयमै त्यो सूचना लिनु पर्यो र अब जुन क्षेत्रमा चाहिँ परेको इम्प्याक्टलाई चाहिँ कम गर्नलाई चाहिँ अब जनस्तरमा चाहिँ त्यो लोकल लेभलको ल्याङ्ग्वेजमा भनौँ त्यो ल्याङ्ग्वेजमा चाहिँ सूचना सम्प्रेषण गर्नु पर्यो पहिलो त। त्यसपछि अब कति दिनसम्म जारी गरेको छ त्यसलाई चाहिँ स्वास्थ्यमा पर्ने प्रभावलाई चाहिँ अब झोलिलो पदार्थदेखि लिएर चाहिँ पानीको अलिकति खपत बढी गराउनु पर्ने हुन सक्ला अनि बाहिरी अब घर बाहिर ननिस्किनु पर्ने हुन सक्ला हैन। त्यसरी चाहिँ अब आफ्नो स्वास्थ्यमा पर्ने जोखिमलाई चाहिँ ध्यान दिएर चाहिँ एउटा पालिका लेभलबाट चाहिँ सूचना सम्प्रेषण गर्नु पर्यो पहिलो चाहिँ हैन मौसम पूर्वानुमान जति छ त्यसलाई चाहिँ ध्यान दिएर दैनिक क्रियाकलापहरू चाहिँ गर्नु पर्यो अर्कोतिर कृषि क्षेत्रमा परेको प्रभावलाई चाहिँ अलिकति अब जुन रेन वाटर हार्भेस्टिङ भन्छौँ हामी हैन वर्षाको पानीलाई सङ्कलन गर्ने चाहिँ एक खालको चाहिँ सिँचाइ चाहिँ हैन धान कृषि क्षेत्रमा चाहिँ हामीले त्यसलाई चाहिँ उपलब्धतालाई चाहिँ आधार रहेर हैन कति आवश्यक पर्छ त्यो वितरण गर्न पनि सक्छौँ।
The legacy of BP Koirala, Nepal's first democratically elected Prime Minister, was remembered today. But the tribute also highlighted a deepening divide within the Nepali Congress. After the break, we'll look at the internal battle over the party's future and the growing questions over unity in Nepal's oldest democratic force. Stay with us for our cover story. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World News Hour, and it's time for cover story. Nepali Congress, Nepal's oldest democratic political party, found itself divided in the shadow of its founding leader BP Koirala's legacy. On his 44th death anniversary, party leaders held separate commemorations and traded accusations over the deepening internal crisis, exposing the widening rift within a party which was built on BP's ideals of unity and democracy. Siksha Patra explores the political tensions behind the separate tributes.
Nepal's main opposition party, Nepali Congress, on Wednesday marked the 44th death anniversary of its founding leader and the country's first democratically elected Prime Minister, Vishweshwar Prasad Koirala, also known as BP Koirala. But the day meant to honor the party's founding figure also exposed deepening divisions within the Congress. Instead of a unified tribute, rival factions held separate events with leaders and cadres attending different gatherings. Both sides spoke of unity and claimed to follow BP Koirala's ideals, but continued accusing each other of weakening the party. Although the Nepali Congress has not formally split, separate programs and ongoing internal disputes have led many supporters to believe that the party is already divided emotionally. Congress President Gagan Kumar Thapa led a Green Run event in Lalitpur to commemorate BP Koirala's legacy. Thapa said the program aimed to raise awareness about climate change and renew commitment toward protecting natural resources.
आजको नेपाली कांग्रेस अगाडि हेर्न चाहन्छ। आज जति पनि साथीहरु आउनु भएको छ यो भविष्यप्रतिको नेपाली कांग्रेसप्रतिको एउटा विश्वास लिएर आउनु भएको छ। तर भविष्यप्रतिको पाइलाहरु चाल्दै गर्दाखेरि हामीलाई थाहा छ हामी वर्तमानमा इमानदार हुनुपर्छ र सिक्नका निम्ति हामीले हिजोतिर फर्केर सिक्नुपर्छ। हाम्रो अग्रजहरूले देखाएको कुराबाट थुप्रै सिक्ने कुराहरु छ।
Meanwhile, leaders from the opposing faction held a separate gathering at the Academy Hall in Kathmandu, where they criticized the current leadership's approach. The group, which includes several senior Congress figures, said party unity was necessary, but also questioned recent internal decisions.
बाहिरको सबै कुरा बुझ्दा केही पनि पार्टी नमिल्ने, केही पनि मिलाउन नसकिने, पार्टी एक हुन नसक्ने अवस्थाको पटक पटक अरूसँग भेट्दा फेरि विभिन्न तहका नेताहरूले विभिन्न तहकालाई भेट्दा विशेषका विभिन्न तहलाई भेट्दा फरक कुराहरू मैले प्राप्त गरिरहेको छु।
सभापतिजीले पहल गर्नु भएन, छिटै पहल गर्नु भएन र दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण अवस्था आयो भने त्यसको सम्पूर्ण जिम्मेवारी सभापतिले लिनुपर्छ भन्ने कुरा पनि तपाईहरुको माझ आयो।
Some leaders continue to challenge the legitimacy of the Special General Convention, despite the Election Commission and courts recognizing it as valid.
महाराष्ट्र किसिमको लागि यो क्रियाशील सदस्यता यो चाहिँ छानबिन समितिदेखि लिएर अब निर्वाचन समितिदेखि लिएर विधान संशोधन समितिदेखि लिएर सबै त बन्छ नि त। त्यो बन्दाखेरि सिस्टम के छ भने सिटिङ सेन्ट्रल प्रेसिडेन्टको हरेक कमिटीमा चाहिँ बहुमत हुन्छ, तर चाहिँ पार्टी भित्रको सबै
गुट उपगुटको प्रतिनिधित्व गराएर छलफलमा लगेर सर्वसम्मतबाट चाहिँ पास भएका कुराहरू एजेन्डाहरूलाई चाहिँ के हो भन्दाखेरि यो महाधिवेशनमा चाहिँ गर्ने सम्पन्न गर्ने हाम्रो जुन सिस्टम छ त्यो सिस्टमलाई त अपनाउनु पर्यो भन्ने कुरा हो।
15 महाधिवेशनको लागि पहिले नै नवीकरण गरिसकेको क्रियाशील सबैलाई कायम राखेर अझ फेरि 15 महाधिवेशन गर्ने र निष्पक्षताको लागि विभिन्न समितिहरू सहभागिताका साथमा गर्ने लगायतका जुन निर्णयहरू छ त्यो निर्णयहरू स्वीकार गर्नमा त्यो निर्णय कुनै सामान्य निर्णय हो। पहिले पनि प्रयोग भएको नेपाली कांग्रेसमा त्यो निर्णय स्वीकार गर्नमा किन हेजिटेसन छ?
Some younger leaders from the opposing faction went further, suggesting actions ranging from taking control of the party office to forming a new political party. Former Congress President and former Prime Minister Shirbadu Deuba was absent from the memorial events as he is abroad for medical treatment. Some party leaders believe Deuba's return could open fresh discussions and help bridge the growing divide within the party.
That was our cover story. Now moving into other updates. Prime Minister Balendra Shah says the government is committed to strengthening Nepal's handicraft sector through policy reforms, employment generation and industry transformation. During a meeting with representatives of the Federation of Handicraft Associations of Nepal, the Prime Minister expressed support for establishing a handicraft development board under a public-private partnership model. He also directed officials to coordinate with the Home Ministry on recognizing Handicraft Day at the national level. Prime Minister Shah assured the delegation that the government would consider making invoice-based valuation mandatory for handicraft exports to import transparency and increase revenue. The meeting also discussed plans to establish a handicraft village in the Kathmandu Valley and skill training centers in all 7 provinces, while industry representatives pledged full cooperation with the government to promote and protect Nepal's traditional handicraft sector. Now moving on, 6 ministers from the CPN-UML have resigned from the Bagmati province government, deepening the political crisis in the province. The resignation letters were registered at the office of the Chief Minister and Council of Ministers as the Chief Minister Indra Bahadur Bania was outside the district. The outgoing ministers include those handling key portfolios such as agriculture infrastructures, health, forest, industry, labour and transport. Earlier, the UML Provincial Parliament Party had withdrawn its support for the Bania-led government. With the UML exit, the Bagmati province government has lost its majority in the provincial assembly. Political parties in the assembly has now started efforts to form a new government power arrangement. Minister for Information and Communications, Dr. Bikram Timilsina, has directed ministry officials to speed up decision-making and strengthen administrative reforms in the current fiscal year. He instructed employees to clear files that can be decided at the ministry level within a day, while cases requiring coordination with other agencies must be resolved within 5 days. The minister also called for a result-oriented work culture backed by daily performance reviews, regular monitoring and a system of rewards and accountability. Minister Timilsina stressed the need to accelerate lawmaking, improve budget implementation, expand digital public services. He also directed officials to fast-track key legislation, including the Mass Communications Bill and the Media Council Bill, with the target of presenting 6 bills to the Federal Parliament during the current fiscal year. Farmers in eastern Bhojpur are suffering heavy crop losses as monkeys continue to storm fields just before harvest. The monkey menace has intensified during this year's maize harvesting season, affecting farmers across all 9 local levels of the district. Residents living near forests say monkeys are raiding maize fields and orchards, causing significant damage to their crops. Monkey attacks have been reported in places like Annapurna Nagi, Bokhim, Taksar, Hatuagadi, Vastim, Dalgaon, Khawa and Kot, among others. Locals say the problem has worsened as monkeys have moved into higher settlements, taking advantage of villagers with declining populations. They are urging the government to introduce effective measures to control the growing monkey menace. Many families have built small watch huts in their fields, with 2 to 3 members taking turns guarding crops instead of carrying out other daily work. Farmers warn that unless a long-term solution is implemented, crop losses will continue to rise, threatening their livelihoods. Nepal's southwestern Lumini area is of great archaeological importance, being the home of Lord Gautam Buddha. In a recent finding, around 2,500 ancient copper coins and a copper vessel dating back to 12th century have been unearthed in Kapilvastu district. Preliminary findings suggest the coins date back to 12th and 13th centuries. The artifacts will be transferred to the Kapilvastu Museum in Telora for detailed study and preservation. Rojin arrived with our local correspondent Basudev Verma brings the report.
हामीले खोल्ने क्रममा छौं कि कति कोइनहरु छ अनि यो कोइन चाहिँ विशेष गरी चाहिँ कहिलेको भने चाहिँ अनुमान गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ मुस्लिम समयको कोइन हुन सक्छ यसमा चाहिँ 12औं देखि 13औं शताब्दीको अनुमान गर्न सकिन्छ.
Another remarkable archaeological discovery has been made in Kapilvastu district. Around 2,500 ancient copper coins and a copper vessel of archaeological significance have been unearthed in Bhavani village of the district. The discovery was made while local farmers were planting paddy and noticed a copper vessel buried beneath the field. Following the discovery, a team from the Kapilvastu District Police Office and officials from the Kapilvastu Museum in Tilorakot rushed to the site. In the presence of local representatives, community leaders, journalists and other stakeholders, the artifacts were formally recovered. Police said the recovered items are now being transferred to the Kapilvastu Museum in Tilorakot, where they will be preserved and examined in detail.
किसानहरुले खेती रोपाई गरिरहेको ठाउँमा पुरातात्विक महत्त्वको एउटा करुवा जस्तो देखिने वस्तु फेला परेको छ भन्ने हामीलाई जानकारी प्राप्त भएपछि उक्त स्थानमा गई उक्त वस्तुलाई रीतपूर्वक हामीले चाहिँ बरामद गरेका छौं र अहिले उक्त वस्तु आवश्यक संरक्षणको लागि कपिलवस्तु संग्रहालय तिलौराकोटमा तयारी भइरहेको छ.
The chief of the Kapilvastu Museum stated, although detailed research is still underway, an initial assessment suggests the coins may date back to the 12th or 13th century. The discovery is expected to offer valuable new insights into the history of the ancient Kapilvastu region. The artifacts and coins will now be preserved at the Kapilvastu Museum in Tilorakot for the further study, conservation, and archaeological research.
International news coming up next. For now, a quick recap of the headlines. Cabinet scraps 3% equity tax on private education and health services. Also approves relief measures for loan shark victims and international airlines. Nepali Congress marks BP Koirala's death anniversary amid growing party divisions. Separate tributes expose deepening disputes over the party's future. Nepal prepares for one of its hottest years in 3 decades. Experts urge impact-based forecasts to reduce the risk of extreme heat. United States carries out an 11th straight night of strikes in Iran. Attacks come amid escalating tensions over security in the strait. Student-led protests intensify across India. Opposition parties join calls for accountability and education reform. And Nepal suffers a narrative heat to Kazakhstan in its opening match of the Central Asian Volleyball Association Championship in Islamabad. The United States and Saudi Arabia are set to announce a major nuclear cooperation agreement that could allow the Gulf Kingdom to develop a civilian nuclear program. The deal could involve U.S. companies building and operating nuclear facilities in Saudi Arabia and is expected to be worth billions of dollars. Reports say the agreement may allow Saudi Arabia to enrich uranium for civilian energy purposes after a joint review with the United States. However, nuclear experts and officials have raised concerns that the technology could eventually increase the risk of nuclear weapons development. The agreement is expected to be reviewed by the U.S. Congress, where some lawmakers have already expressed concerns over nuclear non-proliferation risk. Rescue teams continue searching for victims after tunnel collapse at an under-construction hydropower project in India's northeastern state of Sikkim. The death toll from the incident has risen to at least 20 as authorities continue recovery operations. The collapse occurred on Monday in Namche district, where workers were constructing a tunnel for a state-run hydropower project along the Tista River. Officials say rescue efforts have been challenging due to difficult conditions inside the tunnel. The incident has raised fresh concerns over safety at major infrastructure projects in the fragile Himalayan region, particularly during periods of heavy monsoon rainfall. Now, the United States says Iran is not taking negotiations seriously as fighting entered its 11th consecutive day, with the conflict raising concerns over global energy supplies and freedom of navigation. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Washington remains open to diplomacy, but accused Tehran of failing to engage seriously in efforts to end the conflict. Speaking at the ASEAN foreign ministers meeting in Manila, Rubio warned that allowing Iran to control the Strait of Hormuz would set a dangerous global precedent, threatening freedom of navigation through one of the world's busiest maritime trade routes.
If we create a precedent in the Middle East where a nation state can decide that they are going to control an international waterway, charge a toll, and if you don't pay them, blow up your ships, we have created a very dangerous precedent, which will repeat itself in other parts of the world, including in this region.
The conflict has already disrupted energy markets for tankers carrying Saudi crude oil to Asia reversed course in the Red Sea on Wednesday, following threats by Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi rebels to target Saudi shipping. Moving on. Ousted Venezuelan President Maduro and wife Celia Flores have attended hearing in New York court as legal proceedings continue over drug trafficking charges following his transfer to the United States earlier this year. Maduro appeared in federal court in New York on Wednesday, where his legal team continued challenging the U.S. operation that brought him from Venezuela to face trial. The Venezuelan leader and his wife Celia Flores have been held in New York since January after U.S. authorities carried out an operation in Caracas to detain them. Both have pleaded not guilty to charges alleging they conspired to traffic cocaine into the United States and could face life sentences if convicted. U.S. prosecutors allege Maduro worked with members of Venezuela's security forces to facilitate large-scale cocaine shipments to the United States. Maduro has rejected the allegations and maintains that his transfer to the United States was unlawful, while the Trump administration has defended the operation as a law enforcement action tied to a long-running criminal investigation. At least 15 people have been injured after two trams collided on a major bridge in Rotterdam, the Netherlands, on Wednesday. The crash occurred on the Erasmus Bridge, one of the city's key landmarks and a major transport route across the Maas River. Footage from the scene showed one tram crashing into the back of another, sending debris across the roadway and causing heavy damage to both vehicles. Emergency crews rushed to the site to evacuate passengers, with one seriously injured person taken to hospital. Authorities closed the bridge in both directions as investigations into the cause of the collision are underway. Business news lined up next. For now, a short breather.
The Pentagon says the U.S. war with Iran has cost $37.5 billion so far and is seeking an additional $67 billion from Congress to fund military operations through September. Lawmakers from both parties questioned the funding request and demanded greater transparency on the Trump administration's strategy in the Middle East. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the requested funds are urgent, while officials continue to face questions over the long-term costs and objectives of the conflict.
Do you have a new estimate about what the war has cost us so far in this, the fifth month of the first year of this war in Iran?
Senator, the estimate we have as of today is $37.5 billion.
New British Prime Minister Andy Burnham says decisions on tax rises will be made when the next budget is drawn up, as he outlines measures to tackle the country's cost of living pressures. Burnham, who became Prime Minister 2 days earlier, has also unveiled a tax cut on household electricity prices.
No, we'll take decisions on tax at the budget. This is about reprioritising in this phase. As I say, going to the public's priorities, the cost of living crisis, the housing crisis. How much longer are we going to talk about these things without actually doing something to help people? And already in the space of a few days, I've made a number of moves that will deal with some of these challenges, although I appreciate there's a lot more to do.
China has expanded its zero-tariff policy to 63 countries, saying the move is aimed at boosting trade and deepening economic ties with developing nations. China's General Administration of Customs announced on Wednesday that the expanded zero-tariff treatment is now in effect, supported by new customs measures designed to speed up cross-border trade. The policy includes simplified customs procedures, risk-based inspections, and expanded green channels for agricultural and food imports. China says the initiative has already contributed to stronger trade, with imports and exports between China and Africa rising 19.6% in the first half of this year. Since May, Beijing has extended zero tariffs to all 53 African countries, with which it has diplomatic relations, adding to existing duty-free access for the least developed nations. Officials say the policy is part of China's broader strategy to expand international trade, strengthen economic partnerships, and promote greater market access over the coming years.
Time now for the sports updates. The Nepal Sports Journalist Forum has announced that the 23rd edition of the NSJF Pulsar Sports Awards will be held on September 3 in Kathmandu. The forum also renewed its partnership with Golta Group, which continues as the event's main sponsor for the 19th consecutive year. The year's award will honor winners in 9 categories, including Male and Female Athlete of the Year, Youth Athlete, Coach of the Year, and the People's Choice Award. Nominations for the major competitive categories will be announced in the coming days, with 5 finalists shortlisted in each. Winners in the top categories will receive Pulsar motorcycles, while recipients of the remaining awards will each receive a cash prize of 100,000 rupees. Now to the weather updates, first from Nepal and then across the world. And before we wrap up, here's the reminder of our top stories. Cabinet scraps 3% equity tax on private education and health services, also approves relief measures for loan shark victims and international airlines. Nepali Congress marks BP Koirala's death anniversary amid growing party divisions. Separate tributes expose deepening disputes over the party's future. Nepal prepares for one of its hottest years in 3 decades. Experts urge impact-based forecast to reduce the risk of extreme heat. United States carries out an 11th straight night of strikes in Iran. Attacks come amid escalating tensions over the security in the Strait of Hormuz. Student-led protests intensify across India. Opposition parties join calls for accountability and education reform. And Nepal suffers a narrow defeat to Kazakhstan in its opening match of the Central Asian Volleyball Association Championship in Islamabad. That's it for this edition of NTV World News Hour. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Suveksha Rajak, and thank you for staying with us. Good night.